it's not just 4 in a row. For me, it's 6 and 7.
Yeah.
6 out of 7 to me is just ridiculous.
8 out of 12.
They're turning the Premier League into the Bundesliga, basically. They're like predictable, dominance, low key, not want to say corrupt, but just who's going to win it at the end of the season. It's becoming that level, especially with this last title, man. I just see this Manchester City team forming a complete dynasty, completely having this league by the throat right now, and even projecting it out going forward. I don't know if the 4th title in a row is the last one that they'll get, man. I think there's a chance they might get 5 or 6, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the scary part is pretty much no matter who's in rotation at Manchester City, as long as they have the budget they have, as long as they have one of the best tacticians in the world in Pep Guardiola, Manchester City will always be a title contender. And the fact that they're so consistent, again, 4 Premier League titles in a row is insane, man. Out of the last 12 seasons, Chelsea winning twice, Liverpool, the great Liverpool only winning one of them, and then the miraculous Leicester sitting season. Besides that, man, it has been Manchester City. Crazy. It's kind of crazy. And you use the words, and I want to use the same ones. It is getting a little bit predictable. I mean, I think you could say that most people 10 months ago said that Manchester City were going to lift their 4th title in a row. And here we are 10 months later, not really feeling vindicated, but just being like, kind of numb to the idea that Manchester City have lifted the trophy yet again. And I don't want to downplay the greatness of Manchester City. I just want to simply point out that fact that this league is ran by one team and one team only, Manchester City. It is crazy, though, how close Liverpool have gotten in certain seasons, how close Arsenal have gotten this season and last season. But no matter what, they all falter to the great Manchester City.
Man. They all faltered, especially this season with Liverpool getting close at one point. They slowed down last month. Arsenal was the last remaining contender that was looking to battle it out against Manchester City, and ultimately, it just didn't happen for them today, man. It just didn't happen. I agree. Like these chats are saying, it's the new Farmers League, and I do agree with the sentiment, with the essence of that, in the sense that it's becoming so predictable, but that isn't an insult to Manchester City.
Right.
They've turned the toughest league in the world into their own league. That is incredible, bro. That is incredible. And if it wasn't for a crazy penalty shootout against Real Madrid, they could be well on their way to another repeat treble. They're not. But they could have been, bro. They're that close, man. They're that close. And credit to them. It's been an incredible run so far. Phil Foden today, the standout for me. A player who I've talked about on Reynoso Mountain as a nominee for the Ballon d'Or title. I think for certain he is the Premier League player of the season.
He completely extinguished any possible drama 70 seconds into this match by scoring an absolute banger, giving Manchester City such an early lead and already just giving Arsenal fans zero hope. Once that goal went in, just the way he hit it with the amount of venom, the amount of power, and you said it during the game, that was like the 6th time he's done it in the last 2 months. It's crazy how effective he is outside of the box, but regardless of that, you look at Phil Foden's numbers, you look at the amount of times that he stepped up in big matches this season, I don't think you can really argue it. Foden's been one of the best players in the Premier League, probably the best player in the Premier League, and has been top 2, top 3 players in the world, and I don't think you can really argue that.
In the Prem specifically, and for Manchester City, I also think that another player that's worthy of that nominee is the man who also scored today, Rodri. Also having an incredible season, getting that 3rd goal and celebrating with so much passion. Crazy in a season where Erling Haaland had 27 goals and 5 assists. It's still these 2 Manchester City players that I think stood out much more this entire year. And credit to them, bro. It was absolutely incredible. Phil Foden, man, absolutely love the guy. He's strengthening his Ballon d'Or campaign. I think he's up there in the running with Vinny Jr., with Jude Bellingham, with Kylian Mbappe. It just depends on how the Euros go for England and Phil Foden specifically. He is definitely up there as a top 5 player in the world, and it was beautiful to see him perform today at that level. I guess my question to you is, are they going to stop at 4, bro? Because the more I think about it, the one man who was able to contain Manchester City for one season, man, in these past 7 years is a man that we'll speak about much more deeply into this live stream, Jurgen Klopp, who is leaving Liverpool now. He was basically the only proof that Manchester City couldn't win just one time, bro. Just one time in the past 7 years. Now he's leaving. Chelsea is a shitstorm right now. Manchester United had a terrible season, one that they're quickly trying to forget. Arsenal is looking to bounce back. Will they actually be able to do it? Tottenham with Ange Postecoglou is trying their absolute best. I mean, there's teams up here that are trying it, but does it look? The more I think about it, I'm just like, I don't know if I see Manchester City losing once again, especially with the announcement that Pep Guardiola is going to stay for another year and see his contract out.
Oh, yeah. My mind immediately goes to what Arsenal have done over the last 2 seasons with Mikel Arteta. He's turned them into title contenders. But not only that, I've said it earlier this season, they play some of the most offensive, some of the most beautiful football in Europe when they're really, really on it. Now, unfortunately, when they face teams that really bunker in, that's where they really struggle. Maybe Arteta can work on that in the summer, and that's what I want to really pinpoint on. If Arteta can keep this core group of players, I'm talking the offensive pieces, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka, Trossard, Havertz, he keeps those 5 players fluid and working the way they have this season, I can see them contending for the title next season. And it'll be really interesting to see, do they offload Jesus and in turn get an actual number 9? Because, I mean, you could say for pretty much the entire season, they use the false 9, right?
Yeah,
and I think having a direct goal scorer will give Arsenal that one last boost to actually beat Manchester City over a 38-game campaign.
Yeah, I agree. With Arsenal, I think it's no longer about the skill level or the talent. I think they have it. I really do think it's about the mentality of this team. We saw the early Liverpool years with Roberto Firmino, Sadio Mane, Mo Salah. There was a moment where they finally reached those European nights consistently, and they showed up under the bright lights in big matches. I still haven't fully seen that from Arsenal, man. I still haven't.
Yeah.
I think I need to see that consistently for them to be able to jump into that upper echelon, to be able to fully challenge Manchester City. But I really don't think it's about the talent level anymore, because they've proved time and time again for the past 3 years that the talent is there. I just think those big pressure moments do get to Arsenal, man. I do think they get to them, and it shows. Why are you wearing the bicycle shirt? I thought that was a tribute to Mohamed Kudus' goal today, the beautiful bicycle kick, no?
You got acrobatic as hell in that goal. Yeah, I thought Kudus when I put this on.
Yeah,
of course.
Come on. Just a little credit to a wonderful goal amidst this incredible title race. Can we talk about that creamy West Ham bicycle kick? Like, oh my God. We're not going to regard goals as creamy. We're not going to do that on this channel. We're not going to call a goal creamy. That's when a guy called a jersey crispy. We're not doing that. I'm sorry. I'm setting the rules. I'm setting the boundaries. Creamy does not work here. Luis Melo, thank you for the $2 donation, my good friend, Chivas fan. We'll talk about Chivas tonight, so look forward to that. But which game made Arsenal lose the title? Asked Pedro Celis. There's a number. I remember the Newcastle match they were frustrated about. I know that little run they had, I think it was going into January, where they lost like 2 games in a row. Right. Was really significant.
It was significant because City were also dropping points, and you would have think that Arsenal could have really strengthened their gap at that time. But for me, I'm just going to look at the game that really could have put in Arsenal's favor, which is when they played Manchester City and it ended 0-0. I was so frustrated after that game because even though Arsenal played very well, Manchester City played their usual football, I feel like in a game like that where last season you lost it to this team, you got to go all out.
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice everything. Even if you lose that game, it wouldn't have mattered. You still would have lost the league. So why settle for a tie? Arteta and Arsenal should have treated that game like a final, because if they would have won that game, they would have beaten City by 1 point.
Damn, man. Yeah,
so I just feel like if you have the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. I think Arteta does have to take some blame here for how he managed this season. Although they did achieve a lot of good things, they should have done much better. They're mentioning the Aston Villa game as well as a game that they should have been able to get a result in. But then, yes, that match at the Etihad against City where they ultimately settled for the tie. I agree, man. I agree. Yeah. Looking elsewhere, is there anything else you want to highlight about Manchester City? Because obviously I'm wearing a Liverpool jersey right now. I do have some comments I'd like to make.
Yeah. Just real quick for Manchester City. Again, it really is just historic. I want to keep saying that to really make that so clear. I didn't think it could be doable in the modern era of the Premier League, but you said it earlier. Pep Guardiola and Manchester City have turned a really competitive league into just a one-trick pony, essentially. Now, what's really interesting is even though it's predictable, it might be one of the most predictably entertaining leagues in the world, which that's something really interesting that the Premier League has going for them marketing-wise. But for Manchester City specifically, I'll be honest, I thought they had a slightly worse season this year.
And
compared to last year.
The point total, no, it's way lower this year than last.
It's lower. Yeah. Erling Haaland scored less goals. I kind of anticipated that a little bit because I questioned whether he would actually get better. And I would say Haaland, he didn't regress, but he definitely didn't progress his game. Again, the absence of Gundogan, I don't think was fully figured out by Pep Guardiola, to be honest. Jack Grealish was almost unrecognizable from his performances late into last season. Foden stepped up, though, and I think that was the biggest factor. And honestly, Foden probably is the actual reason why Manchester City were able to slightly best Arsenal this season. But that's my point, though, is that no matter what, what course of season, Manchester City can pull something out of their ass. But not just something, they pull the greats, right? If it's not Foden, then it's De Bruyne having a breakout year, or it's Haaland scoring 30 goals in his first debut season in the Premier League. Manchester City can always bring something amazing out of what seems to be nowhere, and I think that is what makes them incredibly difficult to beat on a season-to-season basis.
Yeah, their depth is absolutely incredible. It showed, man. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne was out half the season this year, and it was Phil Foden who stepped up. I think out of all 6 Premier League trophies that Phil Foden has lifted, this one has to feel like the most rewarding, the most deserving to him, because this is the one that he truly worked his ass off and that he earned with his performances every single year, and with the responsibility that was given to him with Kevin De Bruyne on the bench injured. The way he stepped up, I thought was massive. That's why I've given him so much credit, because honestly, if he doesn't do that, I think this title race is very, very tight. I think it's very, very tight, because throughout this entire year, we saw Phil Foden step up in crucial moments when the game is tied or it's a little tight and we're in the 60th, 70th minute. Phil Foden posts something out of his fucking English ass and he gets a beautiful goal or a beautiful assist to give him the lead. It is truly incredible what he's done this year. I think he's the most deserving of the title this year, and I think he for sure feels that. Yash with the donation. Campeones, campeones, campeones. Trophy emojis everywhere. Congratulations on the victory, my friend. What a result. And actually, this reminds me, I would love to look back on our Premier League predictions to just see what we had at the very beginning when we made our Premier League preview video. What were the 1 to 20 finishes that we had in the Premier League, just to look for some standouts. Producer Ruck, could you pull that up for me? We had both. I'm on the left, Reynoso's on the left, and Saltero is on the right. We both had Manchester City first.
Yeah.
We both had Arsenal second.
Yeah.
We both had Liverpool third. So the top 3 we got absolutely correct.
Nice.
4th is where it gets crazy for both of us. I had Newcastle, who ultimately ended up disappointing and finished in 7th, and you had Man United, who ultimately finished in 8th.
Also disappointing.
Funny, we went back and forth about who's going to finish above one another. Both finished on 60 points.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
God damn
Yeah,
it.
bro. So fuck that debate, man. Honestly, fuck that
They
one.
both heavily underwhelmed this season.
Heavily underwhelmed. And Aston Villa was the one that actually finished in 4th, and you had them closer to 4th, so I give you credit there. You had them in 5th place. I had them in 6th. Manchester United in 5th for myself. That's also a bad call. And then Chelsea finishes in 6th, and Tottenham in 5th.
Okay. So
Neither one of us had Tottenham in the top 6 as well, so they actually overachieved by our standards.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to be as good as they were. I didn't really see Ange being that impactful, but I was completely wrong. He had such a good, I would say, first 60% of the season. The last third of the season was kind of poor for Tottenham, but I would say overall Tottenham had a much better season. I think most people were expecting.
So, especially remember the first couple months when they were in the quote unquote title race.
Yeah.
That was an exciting time. That was fun. Brighton in 9th. We both had them in 9th. They finished in 11th. Yeah. Crystal Palace actually finished in 10th place. I had them 13th. You had them in 15th.
Bro, Palace went off these last 6 weeks.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Dude, they're playing probably the best ball outside of City the last month.
No, I saw some Liverpool fans on Twitter say it truly was a privilege to lose the title race to this Crystal Palace side, because the way they balled out recently, killing Aston Villa today as well, I believe.
5-0.
Was it 5, bro? I was about to check.
Bro. Mateta with a hat trick. If they can keep Olise and Eze, they might have one of the most fun front 3 next year.
Bro.
But that's going to be the hard part. Can they keep those players?
Apparently Mateta has 11 in the last 10 is what I saw.
Wow.
It's crazy. They're chasing that single digit, bro. They've been chasing that for so long, of finishing above 9th place. They're a mid-table excellence team in the Prem, and they finished in 10th place. That's just such a sign of where they stand.
It's so Palace, bro.
West Ham finishes in 9th. Where did we have them? I had West Ham 11th. You had them 12th. Yeah. Burnley, one of the biggest disappointments, getting relegated at 19th. We both had them above 13th. You had 13. I had 12.
Yeah, man. I thought they would have figured it out after the halfway point of the season. They never did. They could not figure out their defense, and then late into the season, they stopped scoring goals too. So it just got worse and worse for Burnley. That's where I got it completely wrong. I thought they would have figured it out.
Vincent Company on fraud watch? Or give him another shot in the championship?
No, I just think the players ultimately weren't as good as I thought they would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the team
wasn't the team wasn't as good, yeah.
Here's a surprise for me. Wolves finishing at 14th. I think at their peak they were like an 8th or 9th, but they ended up losing grip of that. So they finished in 14th. Where did you have them? You had them in 17th. I had them getting relegated in 18th. So if anything, they actually overachieved.
Yeah.
Everton in 15th. I had them 16. You had them 18 getting relegated as well. Brentford finishes in 16th place. Brentford actually got 10th on mine, 11th on yours, so they underwhelmed this year. Bournemouth finishing in 12th place. Yes. My goodness.
For me, they're one of the surprises of the season because based off their performances last year, I did not see them getting anywhere close to mid-table. But the fact that they were able to finish 12th, their performances this season were so solid. They were so much more consistent. Heavily impressed by this Bournemouth side this year. Yeah,
shout out to them, man. They've been great. I think I ultimately only ended getting 5 like on-the-spot correct calls, which were the top 3. Last place, Luton, 20th. No, actually, oh shit, no, I actually didn't get that right. Sheffield got last, yeah, so I didn't get that. So I only got 4 correct calls, and the last one I got right was Nottingham Forest at 17th.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll celebrate that one, man. Nottingham Forest finishes right outside the relegation zone. Teams getting relegated are all the teams that got promoted this year with Luton, Sheffield, and Burnley.
Yeah.
Quite something to note, but fun to look back on our predictions. One question here that I really want to talk about real quick is, does Foden have a chance of becoming the most decorated Premier League player of all time?
I think so. He's 23 and he's won 6 Premier League titles. That's ridiculous.
It's nuts.
I remember when he first hit the scene with City, coming off the bench when he was like 17, and already the plaudits were Foden's one of the best teenagers in the Premier League. And you could see that Pep Guardiola had a lot of faith in him. And to see the player that he's turned into over the last 3 seasons, it makes sense that he's still in the fray at Manchester City. And not only that, this was his best season. And I think he's just going to go off from here. He hasn't even entered his physical prime yet. Just imagine 6 more seasons of prime Foden. That's a scary thought.
Yeah, 100%. You think he's going to see his whole career at Manchester City? You just see him playing anywhere else, man?
I guess why would you go? Yeah. He was bred there, and it's like being born in Manchester United in the 90s. Like, why would you have left that project if you're winning year after year after year? Foden is the star boy of City. So, I just think it'd be kind of dumb to go anywhere else, honestly.
After this season, I think he should rightfully stay. He's going to be Manchester City's next star boy for a long time. And if you don't mind me, I'd like to shift on over to the second biggest topic today, which is the departure of Jurgen Klopp, leaving Liverpool Football Club. If you could just let me have a moment here to express my thoughts and concerns.
Love to hear this.
I saw the entire post-game presentation after defeating Wolves 2-0 today with goals from Gerald Kwanzaa and I can't remember who scored the first one. I'm going blank right now. But winning 2-0 at home at Anfield. Jurgen Klopp's last final day as head coach. And, man, some of the images I saw today were enough to make a grown man cry.
Yeah.
Enough to make a grown man cry, man.
It's beautiful.
Some of the things he said, the things that he's achieved over 9 years with Liverpool are just so memorable, man. The memories are so incredible. And the fact that the day has finally arrived where he has coached, where he has managed his last Liverpool game, man, it hurts. This one really, really hurts because he ushered in a new era of excellence for Liverpool, winning 7 titles in 9 years. And I saw a stat, out of 32 seasons in English football, there's only 3 people who have ever lifted a Premier League trophy and a Champions League trophy with the same team. That's Sir Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola, and Jurgen Klopp.
Wow.
Jose Mourinho wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
Arsene Wenger wasn't able to do it. The biggest names in Premier League football, most were unable to do it outside of Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Sir Alex Ferguson. And that's just one of the many stats that he has dawned on himself, that he has earned as Liverpool manager and has just guided us to these incredible victories. Hurts my heart to see him go. He grabbed the mic. He gave a whole shout out to Arne Slot, confirming that he is going to be the next Liverpool coach. So we will be seeing a new era being ushered in. But all in all, man, what a touching way to remember Jurgen Klopp after the events we saw today. Virgil van Dijk in tears. Mo Salah looked blank. Trent Alexander-Arnold hugging him as he got subbed off in the game. There's so many good moments. And I think what really surprises me the most out of all of this is just how stubborn Klopp is about never coaching again, man. They ask him time and time again, like, you ever come back to the Prem? When are you going to be open to coaching again? Bro, he seems checked out completely, bro.
Yeah.
Completely. And so if that's the case, then what a resume, man. Going from Mainz in Germany to Dortmund to then Liverpool, a serial winner who has heard the rendition of "You'll Never Walk Alone" so many goddamn times in his career. What a fucking character, man. What a career, and what a beautiful way to send him off. And the last thing I'll say is, never seen a coach receive this sort of ovation or send-off or departure ever in my career as a football watcher, man. Never seen it. I don't even know if this is like a thing I want to see in the future type shit. But it was really interesting seeing Liverpool do this whole... Like, Messi didn't even get this send-off when he left Barcelona, man. He didn't get this type of treatment. It's crazy.
That actually is so true because... everybody knew that Klopp was leaving. Everybody in every league, in every single continent, the word was Klopp was leaving Liverpool. I think it does make sense that he does get this huge send-off because of what you said. He really is one of the best coaches of all time. I think you can put him in that category of Sir Alex Ferguson, of Pep Guardiola. It's actually dope that he's statistically in that category. Yeah. Now the argument is kind of made. One thing about Klopp is... beautifully, I think he really meshed with the pressure of the Premier League. Like, it hurt him, and I think that's why he's quitting, but it also pushed him to these crazy heights, bro. He got pushed, but he had to because he was facing against the billion-dollar Manchester City and also his counterpart in Pep Guardiola. That's one thing I'm going to miss the most is those tactical battles. Liverpool City specifically, Klopp Guardiola. I'm going to really miss that because low-key, I think Slot has a lot of work to prove, bro. And that's the thing, though. There's almost no pressure on him because he's just a new guy now. He's got to prove himself. He has to create his own career, his own aura at Liverpool. That's going to be the bizarre thing, though, I think, is just seeing a new guy on the touchline. Yeah. It's going to be really strange. And let's see what happens, obviously. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But that's going to be a weird thing. Like, whether Salah comes back or whoever's in the locker room, not having Klopp there. It's going to be a different guy.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think it shows, man, the toll that these past 9 years have taken Klopp in the Premier League. I mean, that's why Pep Guardiola, I think, respects him the most out of any manager in world football, in my opinion. It's because of how he was willing to go head-to-head with Pep's machine of a team and push them to their absolute limits. I don't think Manchester City reaches their highest ceiling if Klopp isn't there constantly pushing, constantly pressuring for the title as well. So it actually is truly incredible the relationship both these guys have in a footballing sense in terms of pushing each other to the absolute max and achieving great things. Ultimately, it is Pep who comes out on top with the trophies and numbers, but I think just the fact that rivalry existed in the first place was just truly incredible. So congratulations to Jurgen Klopp on an incredible career with Liverpool, man. I'm going to miss him so much, and I'm just interested to see what does a post-Liverpool Klopp era even look like, man.
I'm so curious,
it's such a different
man.
team now, man. It's such a different team, and the offseason is going to be so important to see what players stay and what players go. Does Mo Salah stay another year, or does he also go away? Does he also leave with the Jurgen Klopp departure? We saw Joel Matip and Thiago receive ovations as well as they departed for their last season. I'm interested to see who else will leave. So Arne Slot does have a big job to do here. And I agree with you. I don't think anyone is putting that pressure on him because we all realize just how incredible of a job Klopp did in his years.
Yeah, for real. What'll be really cool, though, is that it's a reset for all of the players that are staying. They have to prove themselves to the coach that they're going to fit in his system. And so I think that's actually a really cool opportunity. This should, at the very least, reinvigorate something in this Liverpool side. And low-key, it might work out in their favor. They should be more gassed up that Arsenal and City are better than this year to improve themselves next year. And the fact that there's going to be a new coach might just add to that fire. It could work or it could end in disaster.
Only Salah, Robertson, and Van Dijk left from the Champions League final squad. What about Trent Alexander-Arnold? That's one I would... And Alisson, no? That's when I would, or maybe from the starting 11. I'm not sure.
Maybe from the starting 11, yeah.
Regardless, man, what an ending to the season. Manchester City, 4 title victories in a row. Congratulations to them. Absolute dominance. And Liverpool seeing Jurgen Klopp leave in tears. So beautiful, man. Beautiful scenes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Absolutely
I think
beautiful.
that's how we'll close this one now, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. And yes, we have much more football to preview, including Liga MX playoffs, Bayer Leverkusen, the undefeated season. We're going to talk about that all very soon, coming out tomorrow. We just want to do a live stream over the Premier League specific. Till next time, guys. Peace.
Sleeping in a cardboard box, and even though I know I haven't got a lot, I'll try to give you love until the day you drop.
Yo vi un dato hoy en Twitter que me sorprendió de un uruguayo que dijo, porque vi que, por ejemplo, mucha gente dice que Balón de Oro va a ser Vinicius, mucha gente habla obviamente de Jude Bellingham, de muchos jugadores, pero hoy vi un uruguayo que dijo, si la Champions la gana el Madrid y la Copa América la gana Uruguay, no descarten a Valverde.
No está mal esa, ¿eh? No lo había pensado. La voy a anotar a esa.
Mira,
no lo había pensado.
Si fuera argentino, denlo por hecho que sí estaría dentro de la nominación, pero como es Uruguay, la verdad es que no tiene tanto peso. Si eso fuera un argentino, denlo por hecho.
Igual tenemos que ser sinceros que para Valverde estar nesse top, tiene que pasar por arriba de Kevin De Bruyne y de Jude Bellingham. Difícilmente.
Muchachos, Bellingham yo creo que Valverde está a ver, pará, voy a decir nada. Son diferentes jugadores, diferentes puestos, pero creo que Valverde está mucho más afianzado en ese puesto que Bellingham y que a Valverde no le queda grande la camiseta. Bellingham tampoco, pero creo que Valverde ya hace años que está de titular, no es una prueba. Y yo lo banco mucho a Valverde, sinceramente. Ya hace varios años, cada técnico que viene en Real Madrid lo pone, de 52 partidos jugó 51, es el jugador que más jugó en el Real Madrid. Es una locura los números de Valverde. El tema es que, como dice Mike, no es argentino, es uruguayo.
Claro, o sea, vos decís que la culpa es que no sea argentino. Pará, y estoy pensando en jugadores argentinos que puedan estar nominados a Balón de Oro esta temporada, que puedan estar peleando. Pará, amigo, ¿de qué te reís? Argentino nominado a Balón de Oro, ¿quién está? O sea, primero me sale Messi. Obviamente Messi puede estar nominado. Se hace una gran Copa América.
Oye, ¿te acuerdas cuándo fue la última? Yo por eso decía, ¿por qué no he hablado con la Cobra? Llevo mucho tiempo que no hablo con la Cobra. ¿Cuándo fue la última vez que hablamos, Cobra? ¿Qué pasó?
La última vez que hablamos, ¿qué pasó? ¿Perdió Messi con el Monterrey, fue?
Sí.
Pero también viste dónde juegan esas canchas, boludo. Viste, la economía no tiene ni cancha, boludo. Jugaron un baldío Messi en la cancha de Monterrey. Un desastre la cancha esa. Dale.
Entonces, ese Messi que le metió 5 goles en Monterrey, ¿tiene que ser nominado al Balón de Oro?
Y si es clave en Copa América, es fundamental todos los partidos, ¿por qué no, Mike? Son competencias diferentes. Aparte del partido de ida, él no jugó. Estaba lesionado. No jugó. Otro jugador nominado con Balón de Oro, Lautaro Martínez.
No, de hecho, a ver, el partido de ida, de hecho, fue cuando les fue bien al Inter de Miami. Cuando jugó Messi fue cuando le metieron 3 goles. Cuando no jugó Messi fue cuando compitió el Inter de Miami.
Está bien, pero porque en el partido de ida había una cancha como corresponde y la vuelta era un baldío, amigo, esa cancha. Dejate de joder. Después, McAllister nominado a Balón de Oro, puede estar McAllister. La temporada que hizo es muy buena, McAllister.
Para Balón de Oro no. No, es muy temprano.
Mira, la vara del Balón de Oro últimamente está muy baja, es una realidad, pero...
Está baja, la verdad que sí.
Y entonces, el Balón de Oro, ¿por qué tiene que ser Vinicius? O sea, si no es Vini, robó.
No.
Mira, ni top 10 aparece un argentino. Ni en un top 10 de Balón de Oro debería aparecer un argentino.
¿Vos decís?
¿Y en un top 100 aparece un mexicano?
Tal vez. No sabíamos de estar.
Yo creo que lo de Vinicius, para mí Vinicius, si es Balón de Oro, tiene que aparecer en la selección de Brasil. Ahí sí le tendrían que hablar.
Yo até había hecho un video que yo creo que si o Vinicius Júnior ganhar a Champions League, né, ia ser uma Copa América digna do seu futebol jogado em Real Madrid, jogar no mesmo selecionado e até ganhar, não há dúvidas que daí é de Vinicius Júnior, não lhe pode sacar. Igual para a FIFA, Vinicius Júnior vai ter que fazer milagro para poder ganhar um Balão de Ouro, porque tem que fazer o doble de gol de todos e tudo mais. É assim, sempre assim.
O sea, vos decís que pero vos estás queriendo decir que es un jugador perseguido, Vini, Alan, como que...
Sim, talvez pelo caráter dele, pela forma de ser dele, mas a gente não entende que Vinicius Júnior le pegaram muito quando ele recém chegava no Real Madrid, le trataram re mal e hoje ele está cajando bocas e talvez isso que Vinicius Júnior está desahogando é tudo a bronca que tinha de antes que ninguém cria nele.
O sea, vos entendés que Vinicius tiene que hacer más que Mbappé, por ejemplo, para ser Balón de Oro.
O Mbappé precisa primeiro ganhar uma Champions e o Mbappé precisa aparecer nos partidos importantes, né? Vinícius Júnior aparece em partidos importantes. Eu não vi o Mbappé, digamos, em frente a esse último partido, em frente a Borussia Dortmund. Tampouco vi em frente a Barcelona. Apareceu aos 80 minutos porque o amigo aqui do lado entregou o partido para o PSG avançar, que é o Araújo, sobrevaloradíssimo. Claramente que só apareceu com o equipo chico, que é o Real Sociedad, se não me equivoco.
Sí,
Aí que ele apareceu.
Es verdad.
Oye,
a
pero,
ver, se hace
están
una gran...
pidiendo mucho para Vini.
¿Ah?
O sea, están pidiendo muchos requisitos para ganar el Balón de Oro cuando el actual Balón de Oro lo único que tuvo que hacer fue ganar una Leagues Cup. O sea, ahora resulta que tiene que, tiene que ganar la Copa América, tiene que ganar... El actual campeón del Balón de Oro ganó una Leagues Cup.
No,
y ahora
ganó
resulta que
Mundial,
Vini
Mundial.
necesita ganar no sé qué tantas
O
cosas.
Acho que o Mbappé entra se ganha, se a França chega, se ele chega a fazer uma boa Eurocopa, entra o Mbappé,
Yo
óbvio.
creo que
O
Mbappé
Mbappé.
también sería un candidato, ¿no?
A ver, la pregunta es, porque esta es la gran pregunta que hay que hacer. En año de Balón de Oro, cuando coincide con Mundial o en este caso Copa América o Eurocopa, porque siempre Mike es la persona más defensora que yo vi de la Champions. Dice, ¿cuál es el torneo con más nivel? ¿Cuál es el torneo con más nivel? Lo dice todo el tiempo Mike. La pregunta es, en este año, ¿qué vale más? ¿Copa América, Eurocopa o Champions League?
Na Champions, né?
Toda la-
Não, depende. A Eurocopa eu acho que também dá para relevar.
Miren que estas selecciones de Copa América va a estar linda, hay buenos equipos, buenos jugadores en cada selección, ojo. Miren, Argentina tiene buena selección, Uruguay, Brasil, Colombia tiene buena selección,
Pues,
Ecuador
Pero
también. ojo.
antes de Lionel Messi, ¿quién había ganado un Balón de Oro por una buena Copa América? Que fue Rivaldo, la última vez.
Rivaldo la ganó.
Aí Ronaldo Fenômeno.
De hace
Increíble,
21
¿no?
años.
Fenómeno. Está bien, bueno, pues también,
Entonces,
pero si vos te das cuenta, Argentina no
o sea,
había ganado nunca la Copa América igual tampoco, Mike. Nunca le había ganado.
La Copa América no es la Copa América antes no era como un factor para el Balón de Oro.
E que nunca vai ser, nem hoje creio que é a Copa. Pode ser o fator, digamos,
Mira, si la gana Messi-
algo,
mira, si
pero
la
não
gana
é o
Messi,
principal.
Sí se acerca, ¿eh? Si la gana Messi, sí se acerca, vas a ver que va a aparecer en un top 3 si la llega a ganar Messi.
Y
Sí,
si la gana
madre,
Cristiano, y si gana la Eurocopa Cristiano, pero no va a aparecer cerca.
No.
Mentira, sí que va a aparecer, Mike. dejá de
La
mentir.
FIFA odia a Cristiano, la FIFA odia a
No.
Cristiano.
Sí,
Cobra,
imagino
pero
que
para
lo-
vos, sinceramente, Cobra, para vos.
Sí.
¿Está para Balón de Oro Messi?
Nivel actual, obviamente, no. O sea, obviamente hay jugadores que están por encima de él porque juegan en Europa. Pero si Messi hace una Copa América espectacular y hace, no sé, 11 goles, rompe todos los partidos y para mí pelea. ¿Vos decís
Igual.
que
le
no?
da,
O
vamos
sea,
a ser sinceros. ¿A vos te parece que va a ser la figura Messi de esta Copa América? Para mí no le da ya. Sinceramente lo digo. Me encanta Messi, es un gran jugador, pero ya no es lo mismo.
Pero a ver,
sea,
vamos
Messi
a ver el
no le
recorrido.
da-
A ver, el recorrido de Messi es el siguiente. Messi se enfrenta a Canadá. Messi se va a enfrentar a Perú. Messi se va a enfrentar a Chile.
Sí.
Después de eso probablemente se va a enfrentar a Ecuador o a Venezuela. Ese es el camino de Messi en Copa América. Y ya
Pero,
después
pará, pero ¿por qué le decís
puede
así?
tocarle
¿Por qué?
México.
¿Pero por qué decís Ecuador, Venezuela como si eran asco, amigo? Ecuador, Venezuela.
Porque son equipos de medio pelo. Son equipos de medio pelo. Y por eso le vamos a dar un...
Está bien, y Cristiano Ronaldo en la
Pues,
2016,
yo,
porque
a ver,
¿contra
yo-
quién
a ver,
jugó?
yo no dije hoy que se lo demos a Cristiano Ronaldo. Yo estoy diciendo que no podemos juzgar por la Copa América cuando Messi va a enfrentar a puro equipo de medio pelo. Mientras que Vinicius Junior enfrentó al Bayern Múnich, mientras que Vinicius Junior ha estado va a enfrentar ahorita al Borussia Dortmund, mientras que Vinicius
Enfrentou a
Junior
City.
a City, o sea, hay que aprender a medir las cosas. No le podemos dar un Balón de Oro a Messi por enfrentar a
Igual-
Ecuador, a Perú y a Chile.
Bueno, pero pongámosle, si quieren, saquemos a Messi de la ecuación. Vamos a hacer un juego en el cual Mbappé hace una fantástica Eurocopa y Vinicius hace una Copa América triste. Pero no digo que sea humillado a Brasil, ni mucho menos. Pone que llega a la final y Brasil la pierde. Porque si la gana, probablemente va a ser Balón de Oro Vini. Por eso tiene que perderla Brasil. Pero Vini hace una Copa América, 2 goles mete y ahí, o sea, cumple. En cambio, Mbappé hace 7 goles en la Euro. ¿Quién merece Balón de Oro? ¿El campeón de la Euro o el campeón de la Champions?
A nível selecionado pode ser, pero a nível clube muito pobre pro senhor Mbappé. Hein?
Mira, yo creo que...
Digo porque não apareceu em partidos importantes. Não estou dizendo em número de gols, porque a gente acá do chat, mas olha o tanto de gol que isso, pero tá na liga de granjeiro, primeiramente.
Los números de Mbappé
Segundo.
son muy buenos.
Segundo,
Mbappé-
são números bons e nunca disse que Mbappé é um mau jogador, pero se você analisar os partidos importantes que Mbappé tinha que aparecer, não apareceu e se nota que sentiu falta de uma criatividade em jogadas que Messi lhe ponia para ele, que Neymar, notou que Mbappé solo não hace muito, não tem muito recurso. É um jogador muito explosivo, corredor, finalizador, mas não tem o recurso de Neymar, não tem o recurso de Messi, tampouco de Vinícius Júnior.
Ah, igual es
Vos
crack
viu,
Mbappé, crack Mbappé.
vos visto que Vinícius Júnior isso com defesa do Bayern de Munique em questão de recursos e gambeta. Eu já não vi o Mbappé fazendo isso com o Borussia Dortmund.
Pero es bueno, para la final del mundo el tipo apareció.
Sí,
A ver, yo creo
não,
que
não tô
tiene-
falando que é malo. Tô falando desta temporada, tô falando.
Sí,
Se
yo
eu hablar da
entiendo, pero
Copa de
la calidad
2018
la
ou de
tiene.
2022,
A ver,
óbvio.
hoy
Ya la tiene.
Pero tenemos
vi
que hablar
una-
de atualidade de Mbappé. Para
vi
mí,
una madre que
para mí
decía
está
que era
abajo
el
para ese
tercero,
balón de
¿no?
oro.
Era el tercero, ¿no? Era Vinicius, era Bellingham y el tercero era Mbappé, ¿no? Yo vi una
Não,
madre así, ¿no?
era Harry Kane ainda estava delante de Vinícius ainda.
Bueno, en ese caso yo creo que la Eurocopa sí define mucho esta vez, porque creo que los números de Vinicius y los números de Bellingham
Sí.
tampoco son tan extraordinarios como para que tú digas automáticamente ganando esto ya deberían de darles el Balón de Oro. Yo creo que la Eurocopa sí va a influir mucho en el resultado. Por ejemplo, si por ahí la gana Harry Kane tuvo un temporadón. El problema fue que
Tremendo,
estuvo en un
boludo.
equipo que no ganó nada. Pero si por ahí con Inglaterra gana algo, si por ahí Mbappé hace una gran Eurocopa, yo creo que ahorita estamos en una época donde el Balón de Oro no tiene un ganador que uno diga ya definitivamente tiene que ser. Porque si los números de Jude y los de Vinicius no son tampoco espectaculares, son
Nah, pero
23
de
goles,
Vini-
10 asistencias.
Pero los de Vini para mí son más importantes que los de Bellingham. Para mí los goles
Pero,
de
a
Vini
ver,
fueron más importantes que los
Pero a
de
ver,
Bellingham.
si hay algo que tenemos que recalcar. Vinicius no es el personaje favorito de la prensa. Eso
Não,
afecta.
é que
Eso
na verdade,
afecta.
Si
o
ganó un
marketing...
premio, si ganó un premio Sócrates, ¿cómo que no, muchacho? Ganó un premio
No es
Sócrates.
el personaje
boludo.
favorito.
Igual no es querido, es verdad, pero no es tan
Sí,
querido.
a ver,
É
No
me-
es-
o
no
me-
es tan querido.
O marketing
Sí, lo
tá
que-
forte para
Sí.
Bellingham, mais que Vinícius.
Sí, o sea,
o marketing tá com
exacto.
Bellingham, o futebol tá com Vinícius.
Es lo que yo encuentro de Vinicius, que no cae tan bien a la prensa, que muchas veces es lo que define. A ver, con estos números, Lionel Messi sería Balón de Oro definitivo, ¿eh? Con estos números, con 23
No,
goles
Mike.
y 10 asistencias, sería
Mentira.
definitivo, no habría ni duda.
Amigo,
sería
amigo.
el número uno, no habría ni duda.
Mike.
Pero Vinicius Junior tiene que hacer el doble de lo que hace Messi para poder ser
Mike, en
Balón de Oro.
2017 Messi hizo 57 goles y dio como 28 asistencias y no fue Balón de Oro. Y no fue Balón de Oro.
Bueno, porque estaba porque ahí se lo robaron, pero eso fue cuando se lo dieron
A Cristiano se lo dieron. A Cristiano.
No, fue a Modric, ¿no? El 2018 fue a Modric.
No, 2017. Messi hizo sus números y no fue Balón de Oro. Porque en ese momento había muchos más
Porque
goles y más
Cristiano era
asistencias.
superior. A
Claro,
ver, lo
por
que
eso.
sí, esa comparativa que salió del 2015, creo, donde estaba la terna del Balón de Oro, donde Neymar anotó 50 goles, donde Cristiano anotó 50 y tantos, y Messi anotó 60, y era la terna del Balón de Oro, y ahora el Balón de Oro se va a decidir por jugadores que tienen 20 goles. Ha decaído
Es poco,
mucho el nivel.
es poco.
É que tu vê a diferença de nível e cada vez vai piorar porque os craques estão sendo de verdade. Hein? Agora tá
Mira.
vendendo jogador robotizado, meio pelo e nada mais. É porque estamos educando
Junior,
assim.
Vinicius Junior no es ni una pierna de lo que alguna vez llegó a ser Neymar.
Veo mucha gente que está o pro Vini o pro Neymar. O sea, veo mucha gente de esto, Alan. Que para hablar bien de Vini ataca a Neymar o para hablar bien de Neymar ataca a Vini. Si tú tuvieras que compararlos, ¿cómo lo verás a Neymar y a Vini? ¿Cómo los ves?
Bueno, até isso um vídeo tá no meu canal aí de TikTok, quem quiser ver. O
Sim.
Vinícius Júnior, o Neymar vai passar 100 anos e não vai aparecer outro jogador com o talento de Neymar.
Sim.
A verdade, as pessoas que falam que Neymar não tem talento e não é mais que Vinícius Júnior em talento, não viu Vinícius Júnior personalmente jogar. Vinícius Júnior não viu Neymar personalmente jogar. Eu posso dizer que eu vi por la tele e vi em la cancha e nunca vi um jogador com tanto recurso como Neymar. Em talento, Vinícius Júnior não tem 50% do Neymar, mas em questão de disciplina, Vinícius Júnior tem isso que o Neymar não tem, disciplina do jogador do futebol moderno. O Neymar é aquele jogador da década de 90 e 2000, que hace um hat-trick e 2 horas depois está no boliche, numa festa, tomando uma birra tranquilo. E o Vinícius Júnior vai em sua casa, faz sua alimentação, sua dieta, dorme temprano, no outro dia, levanta temprano para ir treinar. Este é a diferença de Neymar e Vinícius Júnior, não mais. Que Vinícius Júnior vai ser melhor em carreira que Neymar, mas não em talento.
Igual
Pero vos-
Neymar falta aparecer en la selección de Brasil también, Neymar, amigo. Seas malo.
Neymar?
Neymar es el máximo
Neymar es el
goleador en la
goleador.
historia de Brasil.
Neymar é o máximo goleador.
¿Qué ganó Neymar con la selección de
Copa
Brasil?
das Confederações em 2013, arriba de Espanha, recém-campeona mundial em 2010, com todos os craques na cancha, Xavi, Iniesta e todos mais. Neymar ganhou por primeira vez na história do Brasil a medalha olímpica, que vários
Em Rio.
craques de Brasil que
Ahora contá la
passaram.
medalla olímpica.
Para,
Ahora te
deixa eu
sirve la
terminar.
olímpica. Ahora te sirve la medalla
Déjame
olímpica,
terminar,
claro.
déjame
Por eso
terminar.
digo, no te sirve.
O problema do
Perdona,
Fábio é
amigo.
que quando nós outros estamos argumentando, ele não deixa terminar,
Perdón,
porque
no
não
te
tem
enojes,
argumento.
no te
Vamos
enojes,
lá.
No te enojes.
2016, Brasil, faltava o único título em sua prateleira, que é a medalha olímpica, a mesma que somaram na camiseta do meu amigo Diano Uruguaio, Fabrício. Brasil ganhou a primeira medalha olímpica em 2016 em Maracanã e o Neymar foi o precursor de Brasil ganhar essa primeira medalha olímpica. Vou aclarar, passou vários craques tentando, Romário, Bebeto, Ronaldo Gaúcho, Ronaldinho, e não conseguiram lograr. Então é um logo para mim o Neymar conseguir a primeira medalha olímpica de Brasil, já que tantos craques intentaram e não lograram.
No, por eso para mí es
Oye,
la
oye,
carrera.
Alan,
¿Se terminó?
la primera vez que intentó Neymar ganar la medalla olímpica, ¿cómo le fue?
Perdeu para México.
Está en deuda. Vamos, hay que ser claro, hay que ser claro. Alan, me parece que me extraña de vos que siempre querés agrandar a tu selección como es que la mejor. A Neymar le faltan títulos con la selección de Brasil, pero es la realidad, amigo.
Tiene mais
Es la
título que
realidad.
Uruguai.
No podés, pero escuchá, no metas Uruguay, olvídate de Uruguay. Hablemos de Brasil. Me estás festejando una medalla olímpica que ganó Neymar. ¿Vos me estás hablando en serio?
Se vos festeja
Estás falando
essas
en
duas
serio?
medalhas olímpicas que vós
Claro,
sumaste,
lo
por
que
que, que
pasa
não
que no.
pode sumar? Por que,
Ah,
que ele não
decimos
pode
otra cosa, pero
festejar?
en ese momento
Ah,
era título
andate,
del
hermano.
mundo. En ese momento era título del mundo. Me
Ah,
estás
en este
festejando que
momento,
Neymar salió
en la época
campeón
de Hércules,
olímpico, amigo.
En la
Eso
época
me
que o
estás
futebol era
festejando.
amador,
Es
vos diz pra mim,
vergonzoso.
vergonha
A
é
Neymar
somar
le
duas
falta.
medalhas olímpicas,
Neymar
duas moedas
no
na
ganó nada con
camiseta.
la
Isso é
selección de Brasil.
vergonha.
Deja hablar. No me corté, deja hablar. No me corté. Le falta ganar cosas con Brasil, es verdad, está en deuda, amigo. Yo no digo
Vamos lá.
que no es un gran jugador, es un excelentísimo jugador. Le falta ganar mucho más con la selección de Brasil.
Bueno,
Y no
ganamos-
puede estar entre los mejores porque no ganó nada.
Neymar
Luis
ganhou,
Suárez nada más ha ganado
Neymar,
un título en su vida con
Neymar-
la selección también, ¿eh?
Neymar ganhou a Copa das Confederações, coisa que o Uruguai não tem essa
Y
Copa,
dale con
né?
Uruguay, te estoy hablando de tu país, no me metas Uruguay.
É porque
Tu país
voz
no
é de Uruguai.
Pero
Eu estou
según
me
vos, tu
defendendo
país-
com
pero
argumentos
según vos no es
para vos.
Según vos, tu país no es mejor que Argentina, no es mejor que Uruguay. Me estás festejando un título olímpico de Neymar, pero eso es vergonzoso lo que me estás festejando.
É que se vos
Es vergonzoso.
festeja Jogos Olímpicos somado entre camiseta, por que que Brasil não pode festejar
Bueno,
Jogos Olímpicos
cuando no tenés
jogado em
argumento,
Brasil?
Me contestás con cualquier cosa, no tenés argumento. Me estás
Pero-
diciendo
no,
Uruguay.
pero pará,
Te estoy
pero
diciendo,
pará.
olvídate Uruguay.
Se
me
vos
contestás cualquier
festeja
cosa.
sub-20,
Por
fazendo
eso,
caravana,
festeja-
por que que não podemos
Pero si sos-
festejar Jogos
si sos
Olímpicos?
más que yo, pero si sos más que yo, vos no podés festejar lo
É
mismo
óbvio que
yo,
sou mais
tenés
que
festejar otra
vos.
cosa.
Eu tenho
Tenés que
5
festejar
Copas
otra
do Mundo,
cosa.
hermano.
Pero viste, pero festejar lo mismo que yo es raro.
Já festejei várias vezes, vários títulos de Brasil, já festeguei. Quantos vos festejaste de Brasil? Quantos títulos?
Pare,
Já
chicos,
festeguei
pare.
6, 7
No.
títulos de Brasil, hermano.
Pare, chicos,
Quantos
pare.
títulos vos festejaste? Vos
le
habla de
quiero-
festejo, pero não festejaste un título, hermano.
Pará.
No te enojes,
Chicos,
no te
basta, pare, chicos, basta. Escúcheme una cosa a la que te quería explicar y también a Fabri que lo escuché. Pero Fabri, en el mundo del fútbol, para mí, los jugadores no solo se miden en títulos. Porque, por ejemplo, Neymar es uno de los máximos asistentes históricos de Brasil. Es el máximo goleador de la historia. Estuvo toda su vida con la presión de tener que rendir y para mí casi siempre rindió. Siempre a Messi se lo defendió, o muchos lo defendimos, con que su selección no lo ayudaba en el Mundial 2014 o en 2018. Y para mí en el Mundial del 2022, la selección de Brasil le falló a Neymar. Neymar dejó todo para ganar la Croacia en semifinales. Bueno, cuarto de final. Y el equipo le falló.
Hay jugadores que se ponen la camiseta al hombro y otros que no. Para mí Neymar le falta hacer eso.
¿Le falta eso?
Eu creio que o que põe a camiseta no ombro é o Luis Suárez indo em fase de grupos no Mundial 2022,
Y
não?
dale con
Isso
Uruguay.
sim.
Estamos hablando de Neymar. Respondeme de Neymar, no me metas Uruguay.
Bueno,
Estamos hablando de tu selección.
Bueno, yo
Habla
tô-
de tu selección.
yo estoy hablando
Me
de
decís
tu
que la más
selección
grande
también, hermano.
Y siempre metes Uruguay.
E é
Habla de
mais
tu
grande,
selección.
e é mais grande, por isso que eu
Habla
estou
tu
falando de
selección, que
Uruguai.
Si es más grande, te estás midiendo conmigo, no te midas conmigo. No hables.
É
de Uruguay.
óbvio, pero
No te
vos está
midas.
medindo,
Pero no te
o Neymar,
midas.
vos está
Te
comparando o
midiendo
Neymar,
conmigo.
eu vou comparar com tu jogador. Se vos habla do Neymar, eu hablo de tu jogador. Isto é um debate. Isto é um debate.
Ronaldo es mucho más que Neymar, sin duda. Roberto Carlos es mucho más que Neymar. Ronaldinho es mucho más que Neymar. Porque salieron campeones, porque tienen más huevos y son más jugadores que Neymar. Vos me querés agrandar a Neymar.
no,
Un jugador.
no.
Me querés
Hermano.
agrandar a Neymar. Para mí es demasiado.
me-
No me vendas a Neymar. No
Vós
lo
me
vendas.
quer,
Te falta.
olha o que vós querem agrandar. Darwin Nunes,
falta.
Vezino,
E dale com
Daniela
Uruguai.
Cruz.
E dale com
E
Uruguai.
não sei.
E
Vós
dale
querem
com Uruguai.
agrandar esses tipos de jogadores. Eu estou agrandando um super craque que todos sabem que é Neymar. Vós
E
está
sim,
agrandando jogadores a meio pelo, hermano. Querendo passar por craque e não são nada.
Dale con Uruguay. Dale usted. No tenés argumento. No tenés argumento.
Vós não tem argumento. Dizime que jogador é super craque em Uruguai nos dias de hoje. Dizime um jogador.
Y hoy Federico Valverde.
Federico Valverde é super craque para vós, Federico Valverde. Tem balão de ouro igual a Messi, igual a Ronaldinho Gaúcho,
El
igual a
Balón de Oro
Kaká
no
e
es
tantos outros.
creíble. Yo los balón de oro no los creo. No los creo.
Bueno,
Balón
não
de
lo
Oro
cree porque nenhum Uruguai ganhou, por isso.
Y no,
Oye, Uruguay
seguramente no.
ha dado un Balón
Y no
de
es
Oro,
Porque
verdad.
não tem o talento de Brasil e Argentina. Simples.
Bueno, bien.
É
Vos te
difícil
medís a
admitir.
título.
É
¿Cómo te
difícil
medís a
admitir.
título? Neymar no salió campeón del mundo y no ganó una Copa América. Y
Tampouco
ahí, ¿qué
Suárez,
haces?
tampouco
¿Y ahí qué haces?
Suárez, tampouco
ganó-
Suárez, hermano.
Suárez es campeón de América. ¿Por qué no te informás, burro? Suárez es
Ganhou,
campeón de
ganhou,
América.
ganhou a Copa do Mundo também? Não.
Suárez es campeón de América, Neymar no.
E que me
Salame.
importa se Suárez é
Pedazo de
campeão
un
da
salame.
América? Ele é
Pedazo de un
melhor que
salame.
Neymar por isso?
Neymar se fue Y Suárez fue más crack en Barcelona que en Neymar.
Ay,
Cállate la
hermano.
boca. Cállate la
O
boca.
Suárez ganhou
Cállate
a
boca.
botina de ouro por
Cállate
Neymar
la
e
boca.
Messi.
Cállate
Callate
la
la boca
boca.
vos, você não sabe nem o que tá hablando, hermano.
Cállate
Recém
la boca.
despertar um pouco para a vida.
Ya me desperté hace un rato.
Yo
Me voy
quiero
por
una
la
cosa para que también Mike se meta a este debate, porque yo creo que Mike también participe. ¿El fútbol de antes es mejor o peor que el de ahora? Porque vos viste ese dato que es tremendo, que dijiste ese nivel 2015, ese Neymar, Messi, Cristiano, Luis Suárez, locura, y ahora estamos conformes con un Haaland, Mbappé, Vini, Bellingham. ¿El fútbol está mejor? Hay gente que romantiza el pasado. ¿Qué pensás, Mike?
Pero no es pasado sea mejor. Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi y Neymar en su momento sí estaban en un nivel superlativo, muy diferente al que hay ahorita. O sea, hoy Neymar
Toma, Fábio.
sería Balón de Oro, pero de lejos. O sea, hoy Neymar estaría el prime de Neymar está muy por encima de hoy de Bellingham, estaría muy por encima hoy de Haaland, estaría muy por encima de Mbappé. Es una realidad. El problema de Neymar
Eso en los
es que
cruceros.
nació
Eso en los cruceros.
también gran prime ese.
Te encantaría
problema-
ter la vida de Neymar ya no
Sí,
Uruguay.
el problema
Te
de Neymar
encantaría
es
ter
ese.
la vida de Neymar ya no Uruguay.
Eso sin duda, eso sin duda, eso sin duda.
Pero Cristiano Ronaldo y Messi sí estaban en un nivel muy por encima de los demás jugadores. Ya de ahí, si tú quitas a Ronaldo y a Messi de lo que fue los años del 2008 al 2020, los
Sí.
demás jugadores sí están muy al nivel de lo como están ahorita. Haz de cuenta.
Único
en su momento,
a ganar de Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo
Luis
foi Kaká.
Suárez, pues sí, Luis Suárez
Sí.
está a la altura de Haaland. Bueno, yo creo que Luis Suárez es mejor,
Por encima,
pero no están
por
separados.
encima de Haaland.
Pero, por ejemplo, está por ahí con Mbappé, o sea, también estaría debatiéndose con Mbappé. Por ejemplo, en su momento lo que fue Iniesta, pues hoy se podría comparar con lo que es probablemente Modric, digo ya un poquito ya más acabado, más
Grande,
viejo.
sí.
Pero la realidad es que quitando, o sea, los que están fuera de órbita era Ronaldo y Messi. Los demás creo que ya están un poquito más a nivel. O sea, creo que los únicos que estaban muy por encima eran los dos. Y Neymar en algún momento yo creo que estuvo un escalón muy pequeño nada más por debajo de ellos dos. Muy, muy pequeño.
O Neymar senta na mesma mesa de Messi e Cristiano Ronaldo, pero ninguém está preparado para essa conversação.
No,
Em,
pero
questão,
sí
em,
se
que,
hace
em,
todo.
questão, em questões de talento futebolístico, sim, pode ser não em carreira, mas em talento
Bueno.
futebolístico, há que admitir que sim.
Yo creo que
E
si
bueno,
Neymar
Fábio,
hacía
que
3
jogador
años
vos
antes
tenés
tenía-
talentoso igual Neymar? Nenhum, hermano. Vos tenés
Amigo,
envidia
amigo,
de Neymar.
yo te voy
Vos
a
tenés
decir-
envidia de Neymar. É
Envidia no le
difícil.
tengo a nadie, pero te voy a
Tiene.
explicar. Vos
Porque
no
si
tenés
Neymar fuera
demasiado-
uruguayo, vos estaba
vos
aqui, ó.
tenés más- Vos Neymar lo tenés por encima
Se
de
Neymar
Ronaldo,
fuera uruguayo,
¿entendés?
esse aqui tava aqui, ó. Pó, pó,
No te
pó.
enojes, te noto muy enfuscado, no te enojes. Baja un poquito.
Bueno, sacar a lente para hablar então, porque é uma falta de educação hablar com lente.
Bueno, te voy a mirar.
Ahí
¿Querés que
está.
te mira los ojos? Te miro los ojos.
Isso, exatamente, hermano. Como
Primero
homem,
los
não como mulher.
Vos, lo que te voy a
A
decir,
ver,
vos
sí.
tenés por encima a Neymar por arriba de Ronaldo. Vos estás enfermo con Neymar. Es algo que no
Que
te das
Ronaldo?
cuenta. Vos estás
Que
enfermo.
Ronaldo? Quem disse
Ronaldo, el
isso?
gordo. El gordo.
Quem disse isso?
Vos lo ponés por encima.
Eu não
¿No lo
dije
ponés por
isso.
encima? ¿No
Não
lo ponés por
puso.
encima? Y si
Da
lo
onde
tenés
tá
que elegir a
sacando
los dos,
isso?
Y a
De onde
Cristiano-
sacaste
y a
esse dato,
Cristiano-
pão?
y a Cristiano- que Cristiano
Para. Fábio, de onde sacaste esse dato? Quero
No, te estoy
saber.
preguntando. ¿Vos dónde
Ah,
lo
me
pones?
está
¿Por arriba?
perguntando. Não,
Por onde
nunca puso Ronaldo por debaixo de Neymar. Aparte de que eu havia dito que Ronaldo para mim foi um herói, porque eu era chiquito e me trouxe uma Copa do Mundo, né? Que celebrei muito, foi em 2002. Então, para mim, Ronaldo é herói. E ídolo para mim é Neymar.
Vos me dijiste que
Épocas
era más que
diferentes.
Pelé. Mirá que hace unos días te voy a buscar el coso. Mirá que me dijiste que era más que Pelé, vos me lo dijiste.
¿Quién?
Hace
¿Quién?
2 días me lo dijiste.
¿Quién?
Que Era
¿Quién?
más que Pelé.
¿Quién?
Te voy a decir que Neymar era más que Pelé, este muchacho.
Procurar, hermano, procurar porque você está inventando
Está
coisa
louco.
porque nunca dije isso.
Bueno, después te voy a
Procurar,
buscar.
procurar.
Acordate lo que te di- Mirá que te lo voy a buscar. Acordate lo
Que
que te
dá
di-
à vontade, hermano. Tem
Agora
muitos
vai
vídeos,
buscar.
tem mais de 3.000 vídeos para vós procurar tranquilo. Na
Te
tarde
escuché mal,
toda
capaz
vós vai
capaz que
ver.
te escuché mal, pero estoy seguro que me dijiste que era más que Pelé.
Seguro que tem que limpar tu ouído porque escuchasse mal.
Pero,
No
a
te
ver,
enojes,
entonces
amigo. Estás muy
escuché.
ofuscado, no te enojes.
Pero pará, escuché ese top de jugadores. O sea, Neymar sería balón de hoy en día con su nivel sería balón de oro. El Neymar
Sí.
2015, 2016, 2017, sí. Suárez sería balón de oro. Yo creo que también pelearía Suárez.
Hoy sí.
Iniesta, Xavi sería balón de oro.
Sim, uxe,
Não
sim. O
sei.
Iniesta sim, boludo.
Kaká sería
No
balón de
sé.
oro.
No, hoy no.
Kaká, como que não? 2007 ganhou de Cristiano Ronaldo e Messi, hermano.
Claro, yo creo que sí sería
Como
balón
que
de oro.
não,
Kaká.
hermano? Pô, o Kaká em 2007, o Kaká de Milan, quem não viu o Kaká de Milan, procurar, hermano. Que
sí.
tremendo jogador era, né?
No. Ronaldinho sería balón de
No
oro,
sé.
evidentemente sí. Estoy pensando
Sí.
jugadores que serían balón
Ronaldinho.
de oro.
Puf, Ronaldinho sim, não há dúvida.
Canavaro no sería.
Nah, Cannavaro no, para mí Shevchenko debatible.
Ronaldinho más que Neymar. Ronaldinho más que Neymar.
Olha a bronca que tem com o Neymar, hermano.
Acá preguntan en el
Pero
chat los
ponete contento
chilenos.
que quiere a Ronaldinho.
Eu acho que o Neymar andou pegando tua irmã, hein, Fábio? Não tô sabendo.
Acá en el chat preguntan,
Ojalá. Ojalá.
¿Griezmann se va el Balón de Oro, Griezmann?
No,
Não,
Nah, es un-
não, Griezmann não.
¿Forlán?
no.
E, cara, o Forlan
Bueno,
teve na época que... Acho que
Fue el
dos
mejor del
uruguaios...
Bota de oro.
Fue el mejor del mundial, ojo.
Acho que de
Fue
uns-
el mejor del mundial.
Forlán nunca estuvo entre los 10 mejores jugadores del mundo, nunca.
Del mundial, fue del mundial, mejor jugador del mundial.
Ah, ele ganhou de 2010, ganhou... Foi o único a saber patear aquela Jabulani, não. O Forlan era
Forlán.
tremendo, hermano.
¿Alex
Técnica
Sánchez?
No,
pura.
pero como es uruguayo,
¿Alex
No,
Sánchez?
Alex Sánchez tampoco.
No.
Tampoco.
Não, Alexis, não.
¿Hazard?
Uf, em
Quizás.
época de Chelsea. Em época de
Quizás,
Chelsea.
quizás, en la época del Chelsea, quizás.
¿Hugo Sánchez?
Sí.
en su momento.
Sí, en su momento sí.
¿Radamel
Sí, claro.
Falcao García?
No, bueno.
Radamel Falcao Atlético de Madrid, guarda ese Radamel Falcao, ¿eh? Europa League, clave.
No sé.
Usted diz? Eu não sei,
Falcao,
irmão.
jugadorazo, amigo. Acá por el chat ponen
Mira,
Paolo Guerrero.
Hoy Hugo Sánchez sería Balón de Oro. Hoy.
Hoy.
Los colombianos.
Em que época o Hugo Sánchez disputou o Balão de Ouro? Em que época? Digamos,
Es que
que
en ese
época?
momento no disputaban el Balón de Oro los latinoamericanos, no podían ganar Balón de Oro los
Mas
americanos.
jogava o quê? Pelé, Maradona na época? Não,
En ese
não.
momento era Maradona y estaba Van Basten, eran los...
Ah,
Cara
então-
Van Basten, Platini, Gullit, esa época,
Pero
años
por
80 y
ejemplo,
pico.
Hugo Sánchez metió más goles que Van Basten.
E
Hugo
o Van
Sánchez
Basten ganhou 3, não?
Sí.
fue el más goleador de los-
28 anos. ele-
James, me están poniendo
No,
ahí, James.
James Rodríguez.
No, no le alcanza.
James
Pero-
en su prime de Real Madrid, un año en Real Madrid. Para mí ahí fue su mejor momento.
Ah, pero no, fue
primer año de Real Madrid. El primer
O
año.
melhor momento do Rames foi quando ele clavou o gol no Uruguai, em oitavo de final, na Copa
Exactamente,
2014.
pero
Pero foi um
ese no era el
golaço,
prime.
hermano. Foi um
Ese
golaço.
no fue el prime.
Ah, también acá nos pregunta una bomba, ¿eh? ¿Neuer será Balón de Oro, Neuer 2014?
Nah.
Ese es un debate para hacerlo eterno. ¿El arquero puede ser Balón de Oro?
O Achim foi.
Yashin fue el único que ha sido. No, yo
Foi
creo que
o
en la
único.
actualidad
Pero é
es
tempos
muy
diferentes também, não?
Pero
Essa
hoy en
época-
día, ¿se puede ser
No,
Balón de
no.
Oro siendo arquero?
Nah, imposible.
Difícil, cara. Tem que ser muito bueno. Mira que
Não,
Courtois aí, fazendo o milagre dos milagres, não logrou.
La Cobra tira para tirar el nombre del Dibu. Dale, Cobra. Vamos a hacer directo.
Es más,
Vamos a hacer la
mis
cosa.
defensores.
¿Y el Dibu
Mis
Martínez?
defensores.
¿Puede ser Balón de Oro?
No. Yo creo que no, yo creo que la tiene difícil, la tiene muy difícil el Dibu,
Ni
compite.
defensores. Yo creo que incluso defensores no es muy difícil que sean campeones, que sean balones de oro. Yo lo veo muy complicado.
Bueno, Van Dijk dejó la vida y se lo ganó Messi por 4 votos, boludo, Van Dijk. 2019. Dejó todo, amigo.
¿Podemos
y no
hablar
pudo.
de robo?
Pero acá la pregunta es justo que el Balón de Oro solo se dé a delanteros? Prácticamente, porque hay muy pocos mediocampistas, siempre son delanteros. ¿Es justo? ¿El fútbol es de los delanteros?
Y es lo que vale más.
Es
El
lo más
delantero es el
vistoso.
que vale más.
El
Lo
gol,
más vistoso.
o que ganha um partido é com gol, e eu creio que o recital do partido é o gol, a forma como hace o gol, a forma com... E é,
A ver,
é óbvio que
yo
o
siempre
meritório
he
sempre
creído-
vai ser para quem hace gol, sempre. Né?
Es más fácil destruir que crear. Es una realidad. Es más fácil,
Más fácil.
ser un buen defensor que ser un buen delantero.
Sí.
O sea,
¿Vos
creo que
decís?
es más, sí.
Vos decís, mirá que hay que marcar a los buenos delanteros para hacer.
Claro. O sea, ¿cómo,
Sí.
cómo medís quién es mejor? ¿Neymar o Van Dijk? Entonces, o sea, ¿cómo lo medís?
Es otra clase
¿Entendés?
de talento, pero es más talentoso el que crea, que el que
Sí.
destruye.
Para la vista.
En general, se necesitan otras. O sea, hay más buenos defensores que buenos delanteros, por ejemplo.
Ah,
E
no.
sim, aí o Sérgio Ramos...
A ver, yo nada más lo voy a poner así. A ver, ¿qué pasa cuando tú estás jugando en la escuela? ¿A quién mandan atrás? Al malo.
Al gordito.
Mientras más malo, te van echando más atrás.
¿Al
Te van
arco
echando
o
más
a
atrás.
defensa?
Al arco o
A
al
lo arco
defensa.
a la defensa,
O
sim.
sea, sí,
Al
eso-
más habilidoso va enfrente.
Pero no,
Entonces,
sentís,
sí.
pero no sentís que en el fútbol de hoy, por ejemplo, se premia mucho más a, por ejemplo, jugadores como Vinicius, que gambetean y van y amagan, que jugadores, no sé, como Van Dijk, que cortan bien siempre. Por ejemplo, el récord ese que tiene Van Dijk durante 2 años sin ser gambeteado. Es una locura ese récord, amigo. 2 años sin ser gambeteado. Es una barbaridad. O sea, es
Eu creio que,
tremendo.
eu creio
Él
que o
hace
setor,
todo.
setor defensivo é o mais complicado. Por quê? Porque vamos suponer que Neymar hace 40 gols
Sí.
na temporada e esses gols não se vai borrar. Agora um defensor, como vós hablaste, tem uma invencibilidade de defesa lá, como 30 partidos e falha uma, acabou, terminou. Sempre vai ser assim. Futebol é injusto por aí em alguns
Pero así
setores.
son casi todos los deportes. O sea, todos los deportes que son de equipo siempre tienen una posición en donde se destaca más, ¿no? Siempre hay una posición en donde, obviamente, el que está más cerca de meter el gol o de meter la canasta, pues siempre va a ser el más premiado, ¿no? Pues siempre se va a llevar las palmas aquel que sea el que haga los más puntos, el coreback en su momento en el fútbol americano, el que anota las canastas en el básquetbol. Entonces, realmente sí, en el fútbol, pues tiende a pasar lo mismo, ¿no? Obviamente, ¿quién se lleva las miradas? No se la va a llevar Van Dijk, se la va a
¿Quién
llevar el
cobra
vato
más?
que metió el gol. ¿Quién cobra
¿Quién
más?
cobra más dinero?
Pero, por
A ver,
ejemplo,
por
pero
algo,
ustedes-
por algo debe de ser, por algo debe de ser, porque es más difícil encontrar un buen delantero que un buen defensor. Hay más buenos defensores que
Eso
buenos
es.
delanteros.
Para mí eso, para mí no es que hay más. Para mí es que vos no los mirás, Mike. Cuando uno mira un partido de fútbol, suele mirar más al delantero que al defensor. Cuando haces una jugada, ¿a quién mirás más? ¿Al que encara o al cómo lo defiende? Siempre mirás al que busca crear, no al que busca defender. Entonces siempre mirás más al delantero. O sea, por ejemplo, gana la Eurocopa, no sé, Portugal. ¿Es injusto que sea Balón de Oro Rubén Díaz, por ejemplo? Que va a ganar la Premier con el City, creo que fue el defensor, uno de los defensores menos gameteados del City, y gana el Balón de Oro Rubén Díaz. ¿Muere el fútbol? ¿100% muere el fútbol?
A ver, pero es que nosotros los que hemos jugado fútbol, a ver, seamos claros.
Sí.
¿Qué es más difícil, ser un jugador como Neymar o ser un jugador como Rubén Díaz? ¿De qué crees que estés más cerca tú, Cobra? ¿Un vato como Rubén Díaz o ser un Neymar? Lo de Neymar es más difícil, lo de Neymar es algo, o lo de Neymar, lo de Vinicius, lo de Ronaldo, es algo que es más complicado de lograr. Se necesitan más cualidades para ser un jugador como Cristiano Ronaldo o Messi que para ser un jugador como Virgil van Dijk. La verdad, se necesitan más cualidades.
Puede ser, sí.
A ver, tiene sentido lo que decís, porque ser, como dijiste la frase que dijiste, ser creativo es más difícil que quizás destruir, pero también hay que ser bueno y defender bien, amigo. O sea, no sé, yo siento como que el fútbol premia solamente a los delanteros, amigo, ni siquiera a los mediocampistas. Ponele,
Pero a ver, para ser un buen defensor, ¿qué necesitas?
O Modric ganó.
Modric lo ganó, por ejemplo.
Modric en
fue el-
2018.
Modric, bueno, Nedved en 2003, creo.
A ver, para ser un buen defensor, tienes que ser alguien corpulento, tienes que ser grande, obviamente es muy complicado que seas un buen defensor si mides 1,70, por lo regular tienes que tener un buen físico.
Bacherano.
Tienes que tener, pero más
Velocidad.
bueno, Mascherano, tienes que tener cierta velocidad, tampoco tienes que ser el esto, pero son cualidades que puedes trabajar en un momento más, o sea que puedes desarrollarlas.
Gary Medel.
Lo que tiene Messi,
Gary
lo que
Medel,
tiene
sí.
Ronaldo, no sé qué tanto lo puedas tú medir, o sea, ¿por qué hay tan pocos Cristianos Ronaldos? ¿Por qué hay tan pocos Messi? ¿Por qué hay tan pocos Neymares? ¿Por qué hay tan pocos Luis Suárez? ¿Y por qué hay tan buenos delanteros? O sea, digo, tan buenos defensas, o sea, tienes a Virgil van Dijk, que es muy bueno, pero si tú lo quitas a él, pues también tuviste en su momento a Rafa Márquez, tuviste a Puyol, tuviste a Piqué, tuviste a... O sea, hay más lista de defensas que fueron sumamente cumplidores, o que, a ver, al nivel de Van Dijk estamos de acuerdo que estuvo Rafa Márquez, que estuvo Puyol, que estuvo Piqué, que estuvo...
Sí.
O sea, y a nivel de Messi, ¿cuántos hay? O a nivel de Ronaldo, o a nivel de Neymar, ¿cuántos hay?
De verdad, la técnica no la tienen todos, sí, de verdad. Físicamente
Exacto.
pueden estar, pero
Ah,
técnicamente,
físicamente
de verdad. Sí.
puedes complementarlo como defensa, pero
Sí.
no creo que puedas la técnica. Es que inclusive hay cosas que yo creo que ya traes de fábrica. Por ejemplo, yo creo que Neymar ya traía muchas cosas de fábrica. Ya había muchas cosas, los reflejos, la visión, no sé, o sea, yo creo que es imposible que tú te pongas a entrenar y digas, voy a quedar como Neymar. Imposible.
O sea, voy a
Quem é
decir, por
fã de,
ejemplo,
quem
el
é fã de
talento.
Neymar é Lamine Yamal, que é muito fã de Neymar, Lamine Yamal.
Lamine
e tem
Yamal,
algo,
sí.
algo
Jugadorazo.
parecido. Algo parecido.
Pero, o sea, lo que ustedes están queriendo decir básicamente es que el defensor termina siendo un delantero, no me sale la palabra, fracasado. O sea, no me sale la palabra
Frustrado.
correcta. Frustrado, ahí
Sí,
está.
claro.
Frustrado. El defensor,
A ver,
o sea,
ningún niño,
Van Dijk
ningún
quisiera
niño
ser Harry
dice,
Kane.
quiero ser defensa. Claro. A ver, díganme qué niño en la escuela dice, a huevo, yo quiero ser defensa. Nadie.
Yo quiero ser
Messi.
Samuel.
Todo
Yo
el
quiero
mundo
ser
quiere ser
Lugano.
Neymar, todo el mundo quiere ser
Quem é
Cristiano
fã, quem é
Ronaldo.
fã aí, Fran Beckenbauer, quem é fã de Fran Beckenbauer vai querer ser defensor. Ué.
Pero vos decís que no, nadie sueña con ser defensor.
No,
Nadie sueña
nadie
con ser
sueña con
Cuti
ser un
Romero,
poco,
con
sí.
ser Araujo.
Depende, depende de cada uno, não? Também. Acho
No, pero
que
¿qué vende más? Él también lo que ven los pibes todos los días, ven a Messi, etcétera, y quieren ser Messi, eso es verdad.
O sea, yo no creo que ningún niño diga, uy, yo quiero ser Virgil van Dijk. No, el niño quiere ser Messi, el niño quiere ser Ronaldo.
Yo voy a decir algo y seguramente mucha gente se va a enojar ahora. Ustedes se van a enojar. Para mí, el Dibu Martínez revalidó el puesto del arquero. Para
ya
mí,
cállate,
más
por favor.
gente quiere ser arquero por el Dibu
Cállate, por
Martínez.
favor, ya.
Banco.
Para
eso,
mí,
eso
para
lo
mí
banco,
lo que hizo el
eso
Dibu
lo banco.
Martínez en Mundial de Qatar 2022 revalidó el puesto del arquero.
El baile.
100%.
Hay pibes que te encajan el baile cuando están jugando en el fútbol, viste que te encajan el bailecito. Todo
Solamente
eso.
los niños argentinos, Cobra. Sal de
No,
tu país y vas a ver.
amigo,
por
bien,
qué
bien,
niños
bien.
yo quiero ser.
Acá en Uruguay
Gracias,
pasó, acá
gracias,
pasó.
Pues sí, pero Uruguay
gracias,
es
Fabri.
una provincia de Argentina también. Es lo mismo.
A vos te duele el Dibu, a vos te duele el Dibu.
Pero no, diga la verdad,
Igual-
¿no sienten que empezó a valer más el puesto del arquero del Dibu? Por lo menos no voy a decir en el fútbol internacional, digo los jóvenes. A mí yo vi mucha gente en Argentina con la remera del Dibu. Eso no se veía antes. De la época del Pato Bondancieri no se veía hace 15 años. Que
Pasa
los
que la
pibes tengan la camiseta
personalidad,
del Dibu.
yo no sé si va por el puesto o la personalidad del jugador que todo el también. Yo creo que vende mucho eso también, ¿no?
a personalidade
Entendés lo que te
dele
Bueno,
é
pero es
muito
que para
la
mí eso en
personalidad del
todas.
tipo.
¿Pero no pensás que eso pasa en todas las posiciones? Por el Neymar porque es tan querido por mucha gente y tan amado. Y también a veces tan odiado por su personalidad también. Porque sale a hablar,
también,
porque se
obvio.
la banca? ¿Por qué Suárez también es tan querido y tan odiado? ¿Por su personalidad?
Cuando generan eso es por algo, claramente.
Claro.
Junior también.
Pero bueno, estoy pensando, defensores en los últimos años que hayan generado que los pibes quieran ser defensores. ¿Hay alguien? Que tengo ganas de ser
Ronald
defensor.
Araujo.
Ronald Araujo.
Por Dios.
De los mejores defensas.
Sergio
Sí,
Ramos,
pero,
¿no?
a ver,
Sergio
es un gran
Ramos.
defensa, pero de ahí a que alguien, quizás Ramos.
Ramos, Puyol, ¿no? Ramos, Puyol, ¿no?
Puyol, yo creo que fue la mayoría de los niños usaron Puyol pelo menos na Master League.
¿Amigo qué?
Na época de Play 2,
Claro.
la mayoría, tenho certeza de los niños usaron Puyol de defensor na Master League, en equipos que...
Roberto Carlos, ¿te acordás?
También,
Quizás
también.
Roberto Carlos, exacto, Roberto, pero porque Roberto Carlos, ¿sabes? Lo que le gustaba al niño de Roberto Carlos no era cómo defendía. Lo que
Era
le
como
gustaba
atacaba.
a los niños era cómo le pegaba. O sea, lo que a los niños, porque yo crecí en esa época y la gente decía, yo soy Roberto Carlos porque le pego duro al balón.
Le ponía
No,
de delantero Roberto Carlos, ¿no?
Sí, exacto, había gente que en el FIFA ponía de delantero Roberto Carlos.
Yo lo ponía, que levante la mano que lo ponía Roberto Carlos.
Yo le ponía, hermano, varias veces. Era muy apelativo, hermanos, ¿no? De verdad era...
Acá, por ejemplo, otra pregunta me gustó en el chat que hicieron. ¿Cuál es el puesto de la cancha más exigente para ustedes? Buena pregunta. ¿Cuál es el
Pero
puesto de la
exigente,
cancha
¿en qué
más
sentido?
exigente? O sea, te equivocás,
La mitad.
la pagaste caro.
Portero,
Por ejemplo.
O arquero, hermano, arquero.
portero. Sí, ahí
Por
sí no hay ni
ejemplo.
duda. Es la
Viste que
más...
cuando gana un partido, todo, y lo voy a decir como argentino, ganamos 1-0, gol de Messi, qué fenómeno Messi. Y pará, y el Dibu, y Chiquito Romero, y no sé, el que atajaba en ese momento.
Yo te lo dije que la final, yo te dije que la final era del Dibu y tú me dijiste que no es cierto. Yo te dije que la final, el mejor jugador del partido fue el Dibu y tú me dijiste
No, para mí fue Di María,
Y
Pero
el puesto infravalorado para mí es el lateral, que tiene que marcar a los delanteros.
nah,
crack,
pues que
y
lateral,
no se habla.
el
lateral la
es el-
sufre, mirá que
el
lateral la
lateral
sufre.
es el jugador menos específico que hay. Lo puede hacer casi cualquiera. ¿Cuántas veces no hemos visto que meten a ver, ¿cuántas veces no hemos visto que meten al defensa central de lateral? ¿Cuántas
Pero
veces
no
hemos
llega,
visto que meten al
no llega.
contención de lateral? ¿Cuántas veces hemos visto que al extremo lo bajan de lateral? El lateral es el jugador que menos específico hay en el fútbol. O sea, es el menos...
Vos no puedes hablar eso cuando se pasó Cafú, Roberto Carlos, en los
Claro,
fútbol.
ha habido grandes.
Porque, no, mas eu te digo, há uma diferença do lateral em 20 anos atrás e os laterais de agora. Laterais de agora, pouco tu vê com técnica. Quem que tem tanta técnica que nem Cafu e Roberto Carlos e tantos outros que tem atrás, Zanetti. De qualidade técnica, que sabe fazer um bom centro. Hoje, o defeito dos laterais é fazer um bom centro, hermanos. O Cafu le ponia na cabeça, o Roberto Carlos também, e tantos outros, não sei, lateral que passaram.
Arnold,
Felipe Lan.
Hoy se juega diferente, viste que hoy se juega diferente. Los extremos muchas veces bajan.
São que fazem a
y
função,
suben.
sim.
Claro, antes se jugaba diferente y de 4-4-2
Pero
capaz era
estamos de
más marca la
acuerdo
mitad de la cancha.
que al lateral sí lo puedes habilitar. A una persona de otra posición es más fácil que lo habilites de lateral a que lo habilites en otra posición. O sea, un defensa no
igual
puede
eso que dice
poner
Mike
delantero.
tiene razón, ¿eh? Si usted ve el fútbol de hoy, los laterales muchas veces agarran un mediocampista y lo ponen de lateral, un extremo lo ponen de lateral, un central lo ponen de lateral. Ponele Guardiola, ha puesto de lateral, a Foden, a Bernardo Silva, a Bardiol,
fútbol cambió,
a
sí.
Kanji, a qué. Te clava cualquier lateral, pero nunca vas a ver al 9 que va a ser otro, ¿viste? El 9 no cambia.
Sí.
Entonces ahí te das cuenta que es verdad, el puesto de lateral va cambiando mucho. Kimmich, boludo.
pero ya
No
lo-
sabes si es
a
central,
lo
si
que
es
voy-
5, si es lateral, Kimmich. ¿Qué es Kimmich?
Exactamente su momento.
A lo que
El
voy es
otro
que es muy sufrido ser lateral, porque marcás a los extremos que juegan, la mayoría de los buenos jugadores son extremos, ¿no? O 9. Tenés que marcar a esos monstruos, no es fácil ser lateral. A eso.
Igual depende. Se tu põe um lateral defensivo, no caso o Barcelona sempre fazia o chave de medo de Vinícius, ponia Araújo de lateral para ver se parava Vinícius.
Exactamente
É questão de tática mais, é mais questão de tática hoje em dia. Não se usa mais um lateral assim igual a Cafu, Roberto Carlos, não se tem mais assim, é verdade.
Pero estamos de acuerdo que el lateral muchas veces ni ataca tan bien ni defiende tan bien y puede estar como que campechaneándole. O sea, puede ser un vato que ni es tan bueno en una cosa ni es tan bueno en otra cosa. Puede ser medianito. Yo creo que el lateral sí es la posición menos importante del fútbol. De ahí en fuera creo que las demás sí necesitan ser ciertas.
De lateral hoje, o Afonso Davies me agradou muito no partido em frente a Real Madrid.
Pero es que Alfonso Davies es buenísimo.
Extremo en casi delantero en Canadá. O sea, es un vato que lo ponen, o sea, es dependiendo y lo habilitan en el Bayern Múnich como lateral, pero él en Canadá juega como extremo izquierdo.
Bueno, yo creo que mucha gente me va a matar acá y voy a decir un comentario que yo pienso. Y que es un jugador que tiene 5 Champions y voy a tener 6. Para mí un jugador que dijo Mike, que no ataca muy bien, ni defiende muy bien, ni cumple, Carvajal. Lateral normalito, para mí. De verdad, para mí lateral normalito Carvajal. No me parece
normalito
un gran
no.
lateral.
Normalito não, mas não é tampouco o melhor.
No
né?
me parece crack. ¿Entendés? A mí no me parece crack. Un tipo que tenga 6 champions. A mí me parece Carvajal me parece un lateral normalito. O sea,
Não é o Marcelo.
Pero sí,
Cara, o
estuvo
Marcelo no Real Madrid é isso que eu digo.
exacto,
o
Marcelo me parece más calidad y menos defensivo, ¿entendés? Tipo, que tiene algo bueno de verdad. Bien en ataque.
A ver,
entonces, a mí Carvajal
Yo te lo voy a
me parece-
decir, si a mí me pones a escoger entre Marcelo Prime y Carvajal Prime para mi equipo, yo prefiero a Carvajal.
Não tem poder.
No, amigo, no.
Marcelo
No,
era
no.
una avenida defensivamente. Marcelo era una avenida defensivamente.
Bueno, para ahí está la
Una
pregunta.
avenida.
Para
Ahí-
ustedes el
ahí-
lateral,
ahí-
¿cómo
Una
lo
avenida.
evalúan? Para ustedes el lateral tiene que ser mejor atacante o mejor defensor. Hay gente
Tiene
que
que
dice
ser
que el lateral
completo.
es ataque y hay gente que dice que el lateral es defensor.
No, para mí
Tiene
el
que
lateral
ser.
tiene que defender primero y después atacar.
Sí. Entonces, y entonces Marcelo no te defendía bien.
O Marcelo, o defeito do Marcelo exatamente era a parte defensiva, mas se tu tá no momento do partido e usa a tática de atacar, ele era muito bueno para
atacar.
improviso, essas coisas, assim, triangulação. Marcelo é um gênio.
No,
É
claro.
óbvio que a
Marcelo
parte
era un
defensiva.
10. Marcelo era
Aparte-
un 10 habilitado de lateral.
A parte defensiva de Marcelo, sim, eu tenho que concordar que é complicado.
Pero a ver,
né?
Mike, lo que acaba de decir vos, estás entendiendo entonces que a vos te gusta más Kyle Walker que Dani Alves. Porque Kyle Walker defiende mejor que
Es
Dani
que
Alves.
en el funcionamiento del Barcelona, Dani Alves lo hacía muy bien. No sé en otro equipo quizá, pero por ejemplo, yo sí prefiero un lateral que me defienda. O sea, yo sí prefiero un lateral que defienda bien, para mí. Pero quizá yo en mi equipo sí pondría primero a Kyle Walker antes que a Dani Alves.
Pero entonces, pará, vos estás atacando a un lateral que mucha gente en el fútbol ama y que para mí defensivamente es un desastre, lo digo de verdad, que es Alexander Arnold. Vinicius lo ha agarrado a Alexander Arnold y le ha hecho casi 4 goles más o menos. Alexander
sí,
Arnold,
yo
que toda
soy
la
de
gente
los-
es fan de él y defensivamente una murga.
Sí, yo soy
Acho
fan
que
de
le-
los
Hay
laterales.
laterales que ya vos ya sabés que van a perder con tal. Capaz que hacen un buen partido, pero hay clase de jugadores que ya lo agarran
Igual-
como de punto, ¿viste? Que la sufren. Hay laterales
Igual para parar Vinícius e Neymar é complicado. Viste Kimmich sofreu com Vinícius Júnior, né?
Sí, pero que
Vinícius Júnior,
Para
isso
mí-
que Kimmich é bueníssimo, para mim Kimmich é
Ronald
bueníssimo.
Araujo lo marcaba muy bien.
Não marcava, pero a última vez foi até echado por culpa de Vinícius Júnior, hermano.
Sí,
É
sacate
por isso
la
que eu digo.
camiseta, pero sé sincero, que sabés que lo marcaba muy bien. ¿Por qué
Para-
siempre
para-
desmeritando al
Não
uruguayo?
estou
¿Por qué siempre
desmeritando, estou
desmeritando al
falando do
uruguayo?
último partido.
Si
do
sabés que la
Barça.
mayoría de los partidos se lo comía, ¿por qué
Não, a maioria
siempre
não.
desmeritando?
Não, a maioria
Siempre
não. Vos está
desmeritando.
mentindo também. A maioria não.
Yo me decía, para mí el único lateral que se ha comido a Vinicius, porque Araujo yo he visto los partidos y para mí vos ves donde ganaba Araujo, donde ganaba Vini. Para mí el único lateral que
Exacto.
se ha comido bien, bajo mi punto de vista, Vini fue Kyle Walker. Que realmente se le ha complicado. O sea, he visto pocas veces
Kyle Walker
Vini
é
gambetearlo.
complicado.
Gambetearlo lo he visto pocas veces que lo gambeteé. A Kyle Walker.
Igual não tem a grande Kyle Walker, porque o Luiz Dias le bailou mal, né? Num
Sí,
partido aí.
yo estaba en la cancha, yo estaba en la cancha. No, amigo, fue una
Claro,
locura.
hermano.
Acá en
Aí
el
os
chat ponen-
colombianos deliraram.
Acá en el chat ponen Montiel se comió a Vini.
Ah, mas em época que Vini todavía não.
Nah, hay mucho
Estaba
argentino
bien.
por acá, hay mucho argentino por acá.
Sí, não.
Acá ponen Montiel
La
se
gente,
comió
la,
a
gente,
Vini.
la gente quer comparar o Vinícius de 2021 com o Vinícius de agora. Não há comparação, né, gente? Por favor.
Es que de ahora, si no.
Acá
ahora
ponen
sí, ahí tenés
Foyt
razón.
se comió a Vini. ponen. Pero está bien.
Welcome back to the kick-off. Manchester City have won their 4th league title in a row. Before we get started, I do want to say, Man City fans, they've given me a lot of shit lately, lads. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Seen
but,
it.
oh, thanks.
Well, both of them did, yeah?
Yeah, all three.
The crowd went mild.
No, I have no problem with them enjoying their title. I would do the same. I wouldn't care if everyone else was bored or whatever. But this is what we think, right? What do we think?
Boring.
Whoopsie-doo. No, it's a whoopsie-doo. Like,
Does the 4 in a row thing mean anything to the table? Or, because obviously 3 in a row breaking a huge record.
Yeah.
It should mean a lot even.
Yeah.
Does it mean anything to you?
You know what? The craziest thing about the Man City thing is you should be able to go to the timeline and see something.
Yeah.
See by things trending and everything like that. The things that had their attention, Jurgen Klopp's goodbye. I think that had more eyes on it than anything.
Yeah, that had the most.
That had the most
by about double apparently.
This is mental.
Yeah.
Like, and then after you had those people talking about Arsenal, no one, and I saw 115 charges. People don't care. Like, even I was talking about people telling me, "Oh, you're a Man United fan. Why would you want City?" No, I didn't want City to win, but why are you why are you not caring about City winning it? Because it means nothing. Right now, anyone's groups were all in group chat. chats, is anyone's phone getting off?
No.
Absolutely not. It's absolutely it's silent. It's like there's another game next week. Yeah, because why? Because it's hard to recognize this club. It doesn't matter.
Does it just feel like the title hasn't come to a conclusion in a sense of like, oh, and now they've won the title, and then we start? It feels like it's just a continuation of like 4 years of them winning games.
I'm going to say this as an Arsenal fan, but for me, it feels less like City won the league and more like Arsenal didn't win the league.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That story.
Like City don't even feel like the main characters in a league that they've just won. They feel like an NPC. They feel like a non-playable character. Like they're just like background. Do you know what I mean? Like the story could have been Klopp going with a title in his last season. It could have been Arsenal doing it after bottling the year before. What's the story with City? That they were kind
it's the
of
same
worse?
old story.
They were kind of worse than last year and then managed to do it.
But then do you know,
Foden, I guess, is that the story?
do you not think though, like City were third 10 match days ago or something like that? Liverpool were top at the time and then Arsenal. And I feel like if it was either Liverpool or Arsenal that were in Man City's position and they were able to come from third, and then by the final couple of weeks with that game in hand, just about it's massive. It's a momentous occasion. Whereas this one is just like, and even like final day of the season wise, right? I get not every, final day of the season is going to be Aguero against QPR, but like, I made this point before. Something very similar, if not better, than that Aguero moment almost happened on a final day of the season. Was it last season or a few years ago? Aston Villa. They were 2-0 up against Manchester City. But because we've been conditioned over the years, that doesn't even hold that much weight anymore. Man City coming back and beating Villa, who were 2-0 up on the final day of the season. The league was going to go to Anfield instead. Even that should feel massive. And it's just like, why did we think anything different was going to happen?
And you see Pep doing a bit of a rant not long ago about, well, in the last 5 to 6 years, other clubs have spent more money. And I did a little quote tweet of this video of him being like, yeah, because you spent billions stockpiling talent. So now your net spend doesn't actually look too bad in the last 5 to 6 years, because you can sell a few talented players and it not matter. And you can then spend that money, the Haaland for 50 million, for example. Exactly. No one believes that anyway, bro. But let's just say that that's the way it is. We can see how you don't have to spend as much money anymore because of the structure of the club is amazing, but nobody cares whether or not it's boring. And Pep's frustrated because he wants the accolades, he wants the plaudits, but the problem is you can't have everything in life. And when you've done it in a way that Man City have clearly done it, we're never going to look at it in the way we would look at it if other clubs did.
He wants it to feel like Barcelona.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wants it to feel like Barcelona. Sorry. Unfortunately, it just doesn't. It doesn't have that vibe. It doesn't have that feel. The club, I don't know. It's just, even like I saw one City fan, that came out like, oh, we won the league, and it's like, all right. Do you know what I mean? Okay, cool. And then the killer is their fans are like almost banging their head against the glass, like, why won't you acknowledge us? Why won't you see us? And why won't you, what do you call it? We still really.
You know what? I seen a kid make a really good video recently about this. Like, Man United was the same back in the day. Yeah. So why are you giving this energy to City? And it's like, but you're wrong though, because you weren't there, mate. And I was there. Yeah. And I remember watching Manchester United play free-flowing football. Yeah. Were gettable. Yeah. And because they were gettable, and because you would actually give the opposition, I don't know, more than 5 fucking shots a game, it was more exciting. Yeah. And it did feel like they were more heavy metal and more exciting to watch. Even though I hated them, they made me feel something. Yeah. Whereas with City, there's this just feeling of nothingness.
I also with City, like, the old squads of theirs, like, I don't know, there was something that I could get attached to more. Like,
Yaya Toure.
Mate, that's exactly who I was going to name, Yaya Toure. Like, players like that, I felt like, that's something. No one else has had a player like that. They've done something different with him.
David Silva, Aguero, company. That felt like a lot more of a who's who of a team. Yeah. Now I feel like you could just change the faces and names every season.
Well, I wouldn't know. Is it not more systematically though? Like when we're talking about those, a lot of the names you've just named are players that will take a game by the scruff of the neck. That will sometimes think, right, I'm going to take this responsibility on. Whereas now, and obviously
it's Pep though, isn't it? That's what's changed. Like, so they were a lot more reliant on individual brilliance back in the day. Now it's system-based brilliance.
Exactly, yeah.
We named in the last video that we did about them, it was Wolves and Fulham together had 3 shots at them between 2 games. Yeah. Those are mid-table sides. In the last game, they conceded 3 shots in that game. That was it. and they were 2-0 up, 3-0 up or whatever without conceding a single shot. Yeah. So it's not just about City winning. Man United won loads back in the day. It's the way they win. It sucks any fun that I could have in the idea that this is competitive between two teams. It doesn't feel like that anymore.
Don't get me wrong, though. The one thing that has been good is Foden. That we cannot deny it. That guy has gone, like, the step up has been incredible. Even when they said City have scored, I didn't have to check. Kind of just knew Foden in it. You know what I mean? So he's gone like another step up and stuff. And that's the only way I can say, you know what, what's been refreshing to see is this young English player come through and be what they said he could potentially be.
Are you excited about it? Like, do you know, when you were saying there, that's probably the only exciting thing from it. Is it that exciting? Like, is it that exciting? Like,
it was quite predictable.
Foden's been brilliant this season. Like, he's been unreal. I remember at the start of the season, Craig was really fighting his corner when we were saying, you know, he's not the guy that goes and wins you games. He's all of a sudden proved that he is that guy.
Yeah,
and even being, maybe it's just petty, but there's just something underlying in me that just sort of looks at it and thinks, we're City, though. It's City. So it's just you don't get those sort of headlines. And even Foden going and doing what he's done. You spoke there about City being a little bit boring, obviously, in terms of teams being able to get at them. It's even the sort of flair players, even the more exciting players, they make them boring. Jack Grealish is the most obvious example. Even Doku, like Doku's actually gone under the radar a little bit, and he does make things happen and whatnot. But you can't help but feel that in a Liverpool he would be more exciting. In another team he would be. So I just feel like clearly it's the way that wins. Yeah, it's almost like we were saying. Usyk knows he's up on points. He doesn't need to go for a knockout. Man City do play within themselves in that way. They know they're that good that they don't need to do the extra bit. But for a neutral watching it, I can't say I'm anywhere near as excited for these 4 City League wins as I was when Man United did it 3 times.
For me, the light at the end of the tunnel here is the comments after the game about what Pep was saying. You know, for me, it's the fact that we could be in a scenario very soon, in the next year or so, next 12 months, that Pep could not be managing Man City. And I don't think Man City are going to be as imperious and as perfect as they've been this season without Pep. Like, they could have all the best players in the world. I just think Pep is the X factor here, that we must say that he is so good. And he was saying after the game, obviously we saw the quotes, he said, I'm closer to leaving than I am to staying. And that's the first time we've even heard a little peep out of this. We've never heard Pep being anywhere near ready to leave.
But we shouldn't be celebrating that. Like I don't know about you lot. When Ferguson left United, I was kind of happy that it meant that everyone else could compete more. But I still felt like the Premier League was going to miss him.
Yeah.
I very much feel like the Premier League is going to miss Jurgen Klopp. Even though, like, when Arsenal play Liverpool, I can't stand that guy.
Yeah.
But the Premier League will miss him as a character.
Yeah.
I miss his football as well, to be fair.
Miss his football.
Liverpool are fantastic to watch.
They're great to watch. Pep is the best manager that has ever managed in the Premier League, in my opinion. I put him just above Ferguson, right, because of the way that he's changed the game, because of the way that he's influenced other people's tactics, because of what he's done with those Cruyff tactics, blah, blah, blah.
I disagree, but I understand.
They're perfect, though. Like,
I disagree.
As I said earlier on, though, that like Sir Alex Ferguson teams had flaws. They were gettable. Yeah. And that's what we loved about it. But also that's what perhaps makes Pep a better manager.
I guess if I mentioned boxing, it's a bit like Pep is Floyd Mayweather. I don't want to watch. Like, it's perfect. It's too perfect. It's boring to a point of perfect. So, yeah, I think that's the thing with Pep, is that's why we miss Fergie, whereas I won't miss anything about Guardiola. I think his interviews come across as cocky sometimes. That's quite interesting, but aside from that, it can be quite boring. His match, the way he manages games is almost too perfect. And this might seem like, and a lot of people have been like, oh, you're a hater. Hating is insinuating that I'm giving that much energy towards it. I'm really not. I'm just like, I want to find big games as a neutral as exciting now as I did 10, 15 years ago when it was Man United versus Arsenal or Liverpool, Man United. Or I don't. In fact, a lot of the time, I don't even want to watch. I'm watching less football now because Man City are so dominant than I ever have in my life. And I'd make a point of watching these big games and clearing the schedule. Now I'm like, why bother? I don't want to watch a keep ball session for 90 minutes.
It's their presence, yeah. So it's like exactly what you're saying there. Someone simplistically could say, oh, we don't watch Man City. No, it's every other game. It's games where Man City aren't playing. It's every other game, because you know that the presence of Man City ultimately makes that mean nothing.
Exactly.
Arsenal go and get a brilliant win, for example, right? Say it was Arsenal and Liverpool as the other two in the title race. Arsenal could come back. It means nothing.
Exactly.
It means fuck all.
So why bother?
And I don't rush to match the day to watch them.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Other big teams that we've had in the Premier League, right? Teams that I hated, by the way. Man United. I hated your team.
Yeah.
I would rush to watch what Giggs had done. I would rush to watch what Ronaldo did.
Yeah.
Chelsea's the same, man. When you suddenly got all the money and all the players, I would rush to watch Robin, to watch Damien Duff, to watch Didier Drogba. like the Pellegrini team, I would rush to watch
you know what,
them.
being honest,
I would watch them.
As much as Man City fans are digging us out in that, I'd really like. I bet you, if they're being dead honest with each other, I'm sure they're happy they're winning the leagues. But I think if they go back to previous teams that had the Aguero, the Yaya Toure, the David Silva company, I bet you even they feel like fuck me, it was better then.
I think they look back on the Division 2 teams, though. I think they look back on that era and still have some sort of like affinity with that as well, let alone the Premier League.
This season's the prime example for that with Chelsea. I'm celebrating us knocking Newcastle out of the League Cup in the fifth round or whatever, like it's you know, Jose Mourinho's first season lifting a Premier League title. Football's about the feeling that it gives you, and ultimately the achievement and the feeling might not always sort of correlate. They might not always match up, and that's the vibe that I would get from this Man City era. It's so inevitable that it doesn't give you that same sort of buzz.
If De Bruyne goes, who excites you in that City team? Like, who do you want to watch in the City team if there's no De Bruyne? Because De Bruyne, for me, is one of the best midfielders in the world of the last 5 to 10 years, right? And I do love watching him. Who, like Haaland.
I like watching. I think Rodri.
I like Rodri. I like Rodri.
But do you like watching Rodri?
But is 73 games unbeaten when you've been in the lineup exciting? That's the word he used. Exciting. That's brilliant. Is it exciting?
He's cold.
Not really.
Like, wait,
he is good.
Rodri is next
He's
level.
good, but who's excited by a holding midfielder who doesn't lose games? Who's excited by that?
That's what I'm saying. It's not exciting.
Who tunes into football?
I think it's bold. Wait. No, there's like, I won't lie to you, and that guy Rodri is a difference maker. He's different. He's something. And you look at there's a couple players in that team that you say, okay, you know what, Josko
Guardiola.
Different. What do you call it? Foden, different. And then so they got these little players in there, but then it's like, my thing is, even their fans, how they react to things. I never forget FA Cup, and like against Man United. Bro, when I tell you this thing meant nothing to these lot, like they had a little moment in this thing, like, hey, and then it's like dropping your kids off at a child's party, and then after you pick them up at 3. You know, it's like a 2-hour party. Like they're not in.
And
it
you know what?
Feel
when
like
talk about those big games and why now watching Liverpool versus Arsenal, I don't really care as much as I used to because it's inconsequential. The game that Newcastle weren't involved in that made me feel the most this season was Liverpool versus Man United when it went to the death, because it meant so much to both clubs, and ultimately Man City weren't in the picture in that moment. It was about them, and it meant more. So
it's everything.
That's what but we used to have so many of them a season.
Yes.
Now we don't because of Man City.
But this is the thing, and them celebrations for that Liverpool game, I felt like it lasted 4 to 5 days because it ruined
their season.
It ruined their season. Absolutely, because Liverpool fans would point back to that time and say that was a key moment.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe they've won so much, and I remember that day. I remember when we were winners, and like we wouldn't be excited by much because we've been spoiled with winning. It's like, well, it's a cool cup. I remember looking down on it. I remember talking to Arsenal fans and they're telling me about the FA Cup. I'm like, come on, lads. It's the FA Cup. Now I can't wait to get my hands on one of those bad boys. And that's what I think, literally, they've just been spoiled. They've been had it their own way for so long, and we're at a point, because we don't support the team, we're like, well, this is getting boring now.
Do you think the way it's panned out as well, though, like if you look at last season, potentially, when Arsenal were looking at going and winning it, they go to the Etihad and they get battered. Do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, at least it's like, right, you have just chinned your direct rival. Whereas like you look at Man City this season, of course, they're Man City, they've had big wins, but like to say that Arsenal finished second, out of an available 6 points, Man City have took 1 point off Arsenal, and that was in a dud of a game anyway. So what I'm saying is, it's like when you look at that and you go, well, you took no points off your closest challengers. Even a season where that happens, they still don't come close to winning the league. I get they went to the final day, but if they still don't win the league after that, what hope have you got? What hope have you really got? Like, because you can't, I just feel like, of course, you always can, but Liverpool, when they hit 90 points, Arsenal this season, you can't really do much more. Not in the landscape of how
Arsenal
competitive this league is.
Arsenal fucked themselves. That's where it comes down to, is Arsenal just fucked themselves. It would have been, I would have hated it, but it would have been bloody dramatic. If Arsenal won the league yesterday, oh my goodness. And I was trying to prepare my mind for, Jesus, what
mate, we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but was it 90 seconds into the game, it's already 1-0 Man City?
Yeah.
The goal Foden scored was outrageously good, but like, watching it, you're just like, eh.
We failed to win the league on the final day before. Do you know what I mean? We failed to win the league on the final day before, but I can tell you the night before that, I was very much getting ready to be celebrating winning the league or the chance of it. We spoke to you the night before. You knew, didn't you?
Nah.
You knew.
Mate, Arsenal had celebrations ready to go, mate. Have you not seen the back room?
Yeah, but that is what you need to do. Speaking about the feeling of
the club did. I didn't, mate. I had stuff booked in early this morning. If I thought I was going to win the league, I would not have stuff booked in early this morning. I knew. I mean, we should say, by the way, like, there is never a swing on the final day of the season. That's never happened. The team that's top going into the final day of the season always does win the league.
Apart from when City do it.
Well, yeah. But I don't know. There's a feeling of emptiness with it. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like anyone's won the league today. I feel like the league just finished. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's just returned to victory settings, back in its box. City have got the title again. Let's see if we can create another story next season, but who knows?
Isn't it mad that since the Chargers were announced, they won a couple of Premier Leagues since then? And obviously it seems like our broadcasters in this country have been warned, don't talk about it, right? Yeah. Don't make even though the whole fucking country is very aware of it.
Everyone's saying cheat.
It's such a disgrace that, and even if you're a Man City fan, you should feel like it's a disgrace that it's even hanging over your head for this long, because it is leaving marks on your achievements. And when you see BN Sport, it was Andy Gray and Richard Keys, and they're rattling those charges off as they're celebrating, and you're like, wow, this is a lot of charges. Yeah. It really is wild to know that this is actually ongoing, like in our sport. It should have been tackled ages ago. What are we thinking now about the charges hanging over the head?
Well, mate, I've still got a newspaper from the day Arsenal won the league in 2004. I've still got a newspaper in my house, right? It's a fucking massive moment, right? If Man City were to pick up the Independent newspaper today, the back page of that paper, it has their points tally, it says how many goals they've scored, and then it literally says 115 charges. That's the story. Now, I've heard rumours that the penalties coming next season, they're going to get a big points penalty. The league are going to try and get them out of the league. It has to happen. Something has to happen, because we're all football nuts, right? We've all got something wrong with us. Do you know what I mean? I go to bed at night thinking about this fucking thing. I'm that meme. When my missus is looking over going, is he thinking about other women? I'm thinking about inverted fullbacks. we got problems.
Aren't we all?
We are. We've all got problems. We're obsessed with the game, and we're sat here watching history get made, and the word is apathetic. The word is... and so, as a business... the league has to do something, because you can't have history getting made and nut job fanatics like us just breathing out and go like that. It can't happen. So the league has to do something now. They have to step.
I worry what they can do, though, because if you were to take them out of the league, all right, for a season, they can just come back. Like, you're literally putting a speed bump in their way. It's really not going to deter. If anything, if the punishment does not match the crime. So if we're looking at a team that has clearly been built on illegal activity, and you then won 4 league titles in a row and all the other ones that we like, it makes the rest of the league go, well, I wish we could have done that.
Yeah,
that is the exact opposite of what punishments are there for. If everyone could rob a bank and get to keep the money afterwards, but you do a year in jail, you'd all fucking do it, wouldn't we? I'd be the first one queuing up.
I'll be with you, mate.
And that's exactly what City are alleged to have done here. So if we're going to let them keep all of their titles, and we're going to let them have one season in the fucking championship and come back and then dominate again, what is the point? The punishment needs to deter everyone else.
Yeah.
So would you celebrate if they did get their titles taken off them, and that means Arsenal have won back-to-back league titles? Would you be celebrating?
No.
You sure?
No one wants a title
given the bus.
Those Stoke fans to be celebrating their FA
should be removed, but the title should be removed.
But like, if it gets given to someone, like, you don't want to be given.
But if they're found guilty, though, what would that mean? Like, if we took the titles away, let's just say theoretically speaking, how would that impact Man City as a club, as a fan base, even their former players? Because now you're not allowed to go around saying champions 2021 or whatever. Like,
you would look.
People would have to get tattoos removed.
We'd look at them if they do get their titles removed. Again, how I look at them now, I don't really, until they can tell me that treble's real, and there's so many things that's happened. This club has been built up. I don't believe it's real.
You can't spend 2 point whatever billion and take the piss, stockpile like that, and then be like, oh, but we didn't do any.
I want to know. And as soon as it, like, I can't wait for that case, and they kind of can't wait for the case to be answered as well. If they get away with this, though, because we haven't spoken about that part. What if there's nothing that happens.
Well, you know
What
their
if they
lawyers
just get
are
a-
very good, right? Their lawyers are getting very bullish. They're sending out cease and desist letters, all of that good stuff. So like they're acting like, oh, we're going to win this or whatever. But if they get away with it, I think it makes the whole league look like a laughing stock.
The rumor that we're hearing is 80 points as well.
That's a
so
lot of points.
if it was 80 points, we were having this discussion the other day. If it was 80 points, you would imagine with the legal team they've got and the precedence that's been set already in the league, it's probably going to get slashed down
to
and
40.
It would probably. But even if it's like if it's 60 points, can they stay in the league? Of course, the answer is yes. Can they? Yes. Like, you know, they could have a 100-point season again, then they're safe, you know. But it's like, if it's 60 points, then I am interested to watch Man City next season.
But
then
no,
I am.
that'll
Because if
be
it's
the
80, they're
greatest
gone.
achievement.
If it's 60,
Aye, but that'll
if
be
it's
the
60,
greatest achievement. That's what they'll probably be more excited by. You know what I mean? If Pep can turn around, a 60-point, what do you call it, bloody hell.
And
But
walks
now,
away.
Wait, but how bad is it we're saying we've got no interest in Man City? This is what I'm interested in. I want to see them in that relegation battle next season.
How good would it be if they sacked Pep and got like a proper like relegation?
Oh, you get like it.
Get Big Sam. Get Big Sam.
Steve Bruce.
Bring Stuart Pearce back.
Yeah. Big Sam trying to explain 4-4-2.
I have to say this specifically, lads. A relegation isn't enough. Points deductions isn't enough. If those titles were built on ill-gotten gains and illegal ways, they need stripped of them. They can't stay because then what is the deterrent for everyone else? There's no
because
point.
you look at your situation, you know, in Newcastle, you would have loved, like, if you were allowed to do what City have done, you lot would be way up the table.
Why not?
Right now, we'd.
But if they can keep all their titles,
bro, you're saying if you were allowed to do what City had done. No, Newcastle don't need to be allowed to do what City have done. They just need to be allowed to do what other clubs were able to do in that situation.
Yeah.
What City have done is next level.
Yeah.
That's cheating. Newcastle aren't even asking to cheat. They're just asking to do what other clubs have been able to do. So it's like.
But then I still feel like I remember when Newcastle did get the money, and I thought it's gonna be a City. This is gonna be a super takeover. We saw that meme of, you know, the football players, and they had Salah, Mbappe, you know, they had this, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, Newcastle.
fast forward, we've got Longstaff and started week in, week out. We're like, can we afford Solanke? I'm not really sure.
When Newcastle had that money come in, Brian was like me in round 5. You're used to it. He was just sat there.
The victory beer.
I had no idea what was coming. And look, and this is the thing. If you're going to clean the Premier League up, all good. Let's make it a level playing field. But for Newcastle, if we're watching this and going, oh, so then you got relegated and then you just come back up and win everything anyway. Let's do it.
Let's do it right now. Let's do it. Yeah.
I feel like they need to strip the title.
Do you think if they will get relegated, do you think they will come straight back up? Because let's be honest, right? Let's look at Juve as the example.
Championship's a good city. It's a good league.
Yeah. But
Norwich in the playoffs.
But think about it, right? Let's talk about what happened with Juve, right? A lot of players left, like Vieira left, Zlatan left. Like they lost a lot of players. This is the only example that we can really think of in our lifetimes where this.
They didn't get relegated one league though, did they?
They did. They just get relegated once. Yeah.
I'm telling you now, this is going to be the thing that it will revolutionize their young fans. It will bring everyone together. This kind of, if they get sent down,
Haaland isn't sticking around. Haaland isn't sticking around.
Wait. With the money that he's getting,
no.
Haaland will wait and they'll be right back.
So the difference here is that the FFP conversation has to be put out here because they won't be able to afford the wages that they're affording now in the Championship, regardless of parachute payments, anything like that. They will have to sell players.
And now, a word from our sponsors. If you're looking for a change of career, then our partners, Course Careers, is a great place to go. They'll help you get tangible skills in things like software development, tech sales, digital advertising, and more. And we've had loads of positive feedback from you lot, particularly on the software development course. And if any of you lot want to get involved, you can start learning now for free by clicking the link in the description below.
Parachute payments from Man City. Fucking brilliant.
I know you're saying parachute payments, but the deals that they'll have signed with sponsorship clauses would have been for 5-6 year deals and that. So I think that they'll easily bring in enough money.
Easily.
They'll have clauses that if they're in another division, they'll be cancelled.
Well, and they could sell 2 players
Brian,
for a lot of money.
Please go with me on this. I'm just praying that City don't come straight up, because if they do and they do what Juve had done, how many titles in a row did Juve win after they come back up? Like eight titles in a row.
I'm telling you, I spoke to Big Steve and he said, we could get relegated and we'll be back before Man United even sniffed the Premier League. And I thought,
he's right. I said I couldn't. I think this would be easy, mate. The Championship. The only time I've been a happy football fan was when Newcastle win the Championship. We wouldn't ever. Shola Amiobi looked like a fucking world beater down there.
Brilliant.
It was unbelievable. So unfortunately, I think that more than enough players would stay and they would bounce back.
They'd be padding them stats.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be doing if I'm Haaland going down. I'm thinking, yeah, this is a 70-goal season here.
Yeah,
I've got 42 games to do it.
I think the difference is, right, with Juve, they had some like historical connection. Like they were a big team beforehand, right?
Yeah.
But I think like there isn't, like Haaland isn't going, Haaland's different because he's got the connection. But I don't think there are other players in that team that have that connection with Man City that would mean that they stay. They're getting paid a lot of money. Now, if they aren't getting paid a lot of money, they're going to go to the highest bidder. Like they'll go to Newcastle,
also,
they'll go to Real Madrid, they'll go to whoever they can.
When you're saying about players leaving, they could sell their entire first 11. They'd still romp the Championship. Julian Alvarez playing up front in the Championship.
They could romp the Championship, but would they come back up and then romp the Premier League again?
Yes.
What with the B team, with the academy team?
If Pep's there,
Pep is always going to go. He said this in a press conference. If they get charged, I will leave.
But he went back on that. He went back on that. He said
lied.
that originally, didn't he? He said that originally, and then when he was questioned about it again, he didn't he refuted it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I don't think so.
I wonder, just to put this out there, if Pep Guardiola saying I'm closer to leaving than staying is hearing when said charges, and just coincidentally, in advance of them being brought into effect, may announce his retirement from the job 6 months in advance, and then a few months later, the charges. Oh well, I've already said I'm going. I'm afraid. I'll say it. And I don't think for 1 second Pep is really in the business of truly testing himself as a manager. He just wants the easiest jobs in football,
and then probably wants to. I don't know if he'll ever think about getting back to Barcelona, to be honest, because that's unfinished business in terms of he done something amazing, and we praised him at his time at Barca. Had a stint in Bayern. And now he's like, well, where can I go for that final? Because
where's the checkbook? Where's the next checkbook?
I wouldn't say the checkbook, but where can I go for, like, because the respect is there, but the cheating allegations are always going to be attached to Man City. So no matter what you do there, we're going to look at it like, you know, when you finally get back to, when he does go back to, I don't know, like a Barcelona, who's been in the doldrums, they haven't been able to compete with Real Madrid.
I doubt he'll go there. I would be stunned if Pep Guardiola takes a job where he has not got an open checkbook.
Well, he said he'd like to do international management.
There you go.
That's what.
There you go.
So,
that train's never late.
Yeah. I mean, look, Craig's going to be fucking going mental watching this.
Craig should have had a seat.
All the comments are going to be Craig.
Man.
All the comments are going to be Craig.
Should have a seat.
you speak about
No, Pep's a great manager. That's actually, we're not debating that. His football style is boring, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
But it's very overpowered when you've got all the most expensive players in the world, especially. Like, even if he didn't have all of that, he'd still be a force. But we're just saying, with everything in your favour, well, what is the point then?
Liga MX playoffs are in full effect. La Liguilla, we saw America face off against Chivas in the semifinals, and we just finished watching Cruz Azul going up against Monterrey. Let me start with Chivas versus America, a game in which going into it was 0-0 after a result that I thought Chivas should have ended with a goal lead, given how they performed at the Estadio Akron. I already expressed my thoughts on that, but that is how it ultimately felt, was that feeling of like, damn, we should have left with a lot more, but we didn't, man. And ultimately, it was that lack of finishing that came back to bite us, man, because in this second leg at the Estadio Azteca, America just got really organized. They got really organized, and it was incredibly tough for this Chivas offense to break them down. Yeah. And ultimately, they were beating us in the air a lot, and it was through a set piece where Israel Reyes got the game-winning goal to push America ahead. Once they got that goal, we needed 2.5 goals to get it, to get the result, and ultimately that just wasn't going to happen with the way that we were playing. They shut us down, and credit to America because they got the job done. They did what was required out of them. And I know that a lot of people, including myself, were kind of critical of how America has approached this Liguilla playoff so far, not looking as dominant or as convincing as they were last year. This time around, they're looking a little bit more calculated, I guess, is how I ultimately would interpret it, because despite all the criticisms, bro, they're here once again in a Liga MX final in back-to-back years, chasing the bicampeonato, which is just so rare to see. We most recently saw with Atlas. Leon did it one time, and I believe that's it, man. There's not many teams that are able to say they did that achievement. So America is a nominee for potentially putting off something incredible in this league, and they did it by beating their huge rivals in Chivas. And God damn it, does it hurt, bro, to lose to them? I've been having a really, really bad weekend, my friend. Really bad. But once again, I always respect and admire greatness. And I think America is in the midst of that right now because they got a good team, bro.
Oh, yeah. But I think you shouldn't feel too hard done for Chivas' performance against America on the second leg. I thought America were going to dominate way more, but honestly, the first half, Chivas made it a scrap. They made it as tight as they possibly could have. And if anything, Chivas actually had some really good possession. What they ultimately couldn't do was just translate that to genuine final third options, man. Marin, Alvarado, Keikao when he came on, though they had a lot of energy and activity, they just couldn't really get past the America players one-on-one, or they just couldn't combine with each other to create a clear chance. That's the only thing I really have to criticize about Chivas is they played great, I'd say, in the midfield and even defensively, man. Honestly, if they just had one or two players who were just very aggressive offensively or who were a lot better in one-on-one situations, honestly, I think Chivas could have gotten a really massive result on the road. Because, as you already kind of alluded to, America, although they did put in a professional performance, I don't think I could say it was convincing. I'll be completely honest. America shorted up in the second half. Don't get me wrong. They definitely nullified Chivas in the second half. They had a lot more of the ball. That's when they eventually got the goal. But other than that, America, and I've said it this whole playoffs, they just don't look the same. They don't look like they have the same bite that they had in the regular season. And ultimately, I think the best way I can describe it, they look a half step slow to everything. They don't have the same dynamicism that they had in the regular season. And honestly, I think that's actually a major point of contention for America because that's why they were so good. It was their quickness, their aggressiveness on and off the ball. They've lost a bit of that in this playoffs. So yes, Chivas did lose, but I think if Chivas just had more attacking options, they could have beaten America.
I feel like had we made it tighter, had we gotten that equalizing goal, I feel like America can get into that gear if needed. I feel like they're almost coasting by because they realize that they do have that ability. They're that good. They're that experienced now. I feel like although they do deserve to be criticized the way you have, they still have done enough to get through. And it's been a sort of lazy approach so far. I'm hesitant to go as far as to say that they've dropped in quality. I wonder if it's only been 3 playoff games so far, or four playoff games so far. I wonder if come final time, we just see the same old version. I think that's still there in them is ultimately what I'm saying.
It again, and we prefaced it when we talked about what could happen in the second leg. At the very end of the day, America still possessed their individual quality, right? Players like Henry Martin, Julian Quiñones, Endejas, in the midfield Fidalgo, Richard Sanchez off the bench. There's immense quality individually. I just think as a collective, America are not performing the way that I think most people thought that they would. And I guess I'll get to a spoiler. I think it might hurt them in the final.
We'll see because they're set to face off against either Cruz Azul or Monterrey going into today's evening. And it ends up being Cruz Azul, La Máquina, who sees themselves in a final. A beautiful story anytime we see Cruz Azul go deep in that liguilla, man, honestly. And it was after a very dramatic result, a very dramatic game at home against Monterrey, where they went up 1-0 to push the aggregate lead to 2-0. But then Monterrey came back and scored 2 back-to-back goals after consistently flirting with the goal the entire match. They get 2 back-to-back goals. It's 2-2 on aggregate, but Cruz Azul has the advantage because of seeding. And then it's like 20 minutes of Monterrey looking for that final goal to get them through to the freaking final, and they couldn't find it.
Monterrey yet again pissed me off in a playoff setting. They should have gotten a goal in the first half. Berterame had a wide open chance. Brandon Vasquez, maybe not wide open, but had several half chances that ultimately he just completely fluffed. Maxi Mesa looking like he can't even hit a simple target by just skying his opportunities. Most of the crosses were just overdone. Most players couldn't get onto the end of a lot of the balls that were being distributed from Canales and from Cortizo. the buildup was great, man. From Monterrey, they didn't have that bite. They didn't have that dog in them to really put it past Cruz Azul, because it was right there. It was right there for Monterrey. And even in the second half, they were giving Cruz Azul everything they had, but it was Cruz Azul who scored the one goal on the break, and they just caught Monterrey off guard. Sure. And it's that one goal that ultimately fucked Monterrey, because they would have gone through had they just won the game 2-0. Monterrey ultimately have only themselves to blame. It's super frustrating because honestly, they were the better team in this second leg.
For sure.
Cruz Azul absorbed pressure great. Do not get me wrong, but Cruz Azul could not get past that midfield for large portions of this game. They did well to get that one goal on the break, but Monterrey should have won this match, bro. But they didn't. They didn't, and I'm just fed up with this team, bro. I'm fed up with this team, bro.
No, for me, it's the club, bro. I'm tired of this
fed
club.
up.
And even last year with what happened against, I think it was Atletico San Luis, the way he got kicked out in the quarterfinals. Stan Ortiz is on fraud watch. I've been saying it, and I've been on his ass for a long time now, man. He looks speechless on the sideline after what happened today. Like, he just didn't know what to do. I think it's on both him and the players with the way they showed out. There were sitters that we saw were missed today from Monterrey.
Bro.
But it also makes me wonder, how did they not score at home?
And this is what
the hell happened, bro?
Great point, because this is what I want to double down on. You brought this up last Liguilla. I think Ortiz low-key might be a fraud. Maybe high-key, actually. I'm going to change that.
Yeah.
High-key is a fraud because he had such a conservative approach in that first leg in Monterrey. How are you going to do that in front of your idiot, bro? Stupid. Knowing the attacking options that you have at your full disposal, get your goals at home, then figure it out in the second leg. Don't try to keep it tied in the first leg. It bites you because you end up conceding. Are you kidding me? This is all on Ortiz in that first leg. How he has not figured out to consistently start Cortizo also boggles my mind. He should be starting every single game. He should be the focal point of the attacking midfield alongside Canales. The fact that he even thinks to bench him, I think, is stupid at this point. I'm done with Ortiz. I'm done with Monterrey. They should have won this game, but I'm glad Cruz Azul went through.
Yeah, on the other side of the pitch, you have a young, up-and-coming 44-year-old coach. I don't really remember how to say his name correctly. Anselmi. Guiding his team to a Liga MX final in his first year with them. Yeah. Truly amazing. Coming from Ecuador after coaching in Independiente del Valle to a Copa Sudamericana victory, joins Cruz Azul, brings Faravelli with him, and now he has him in a freaking Liguilla final, man. What a story for him. This does not happen often in Liga MX, where you see a first season coach go this deep into the tournament and have an actual shot at winning. So shout out to him, because we're talking about coaches on fraud watch, such as Tan Ortiz. This is a coach who is on honestly like up-and-comer watch. Like, he could mean something to this league one day if he continues at this pace, because doing this with Cruz Azul, I think, is really, really special.
Yeah, I love the way Cruz Azul play when they're on it. They were not on it today, but honestly, prior to this match, they've been excellent. You have players like Rivero and Faravelli who are such good distributors, and they have always options on the width. Whether it's Rotondi on the left side or Antuna on the right side, there's always an option to play it very, very wide, and then that allows the rest of the team to kind of join up, and it's just really good use of the pitch, in my opinion. They play a very, honestly, I guess South American type of football, honestly. It's very much emphasis on the pass, getting it wide, and being a little bit creative. And I like seeing Cruz Azul like this because, I mean, low-key, not a lot of Mexican clubs play the way that this Cruz Azul team played. Sepúlveda, all of a sudden, is getting a lot of goals with this team, and I do think it's purely because of the way that Anselmi sets his team up. It's really interesting. It's so fun to watch this Cruz Azul team play when they're at their peak, and I just hope that they play a little bit better in the final. That's all I can ask them to do.
That's the question that we have to set up, is who is going to win this final between America and Cruz Azul. I think the last time Cruz Azul was in a final was against America, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so this will be another try, another attempt at winning the title. Sheesh. Interesting that it's against America, man. This America team that we have described as night and day from what they were last year, but one that I believe still has a lot more to offer. Versus Cruz Azul side, who ultimately got pretty lucky to see themselves get a result and get through to this final. So I think it'll be a really tight matchup, and it'll be really exciting. But when I think about who's going to step up who's going to find that grit, who's going to find that ability to win a big match in these big settings. The way that I saw Cruz Azul look so erratic today in moments, and at one point even look a little lost once Monterrey got the momentum.
For sure.
I don't see America matching that energy in terms of, being on the ropes as much. So I actually do have America winning this tournament once again and getting the bicampeón, because the lowest point for Cruz Azul, I think, is a little bit more concerning than America's lowest point.
Man, I can't disagree with that. I cannot disagree with that. But I'm going Cruz Azul.
It's fine.
I'm going
it's
Cruz
Liga
Azul,
MX,
bro.
baby.
And I'm pure. Yeah, exactly.
This is the lead to do it, bro.
This is the lead to do it.
Yeah.
But I am banking on the fact that I think Cruz Azul can take advantage of the fatigue that I see in America. That's it. I think Cruz Azul are on a bit more of a vibe. Yes, they did get lucky today. I'm not taking that away. And I've already said it. The individual talent in America is probably better than Cruz Azul. But I think the cohesiveness that have gotten Cruz Azul to this final will outdo the lacklusterness that America possess at this moment. America have probably been the better team overall in this clausura. I think Cruz Azul will outdo them in this final.
I do know for sure for both teams, they got to wake the fuck up. Like
both teams do.
Come on now. No more fucking second guessing, no hesitancy out there. Like, it's a final. Let's go for it. Let's play our best level possible. If we see both sides kind of just shrug their way along, I think that'll be really disappointing. I want to see a team reach their absolute peak. Now is the time to do it. There's a trophy on the line. Go out and get it. I'm going America. You're going Cruz Azul. Folks, let us know in the comments down below. Who are you going with to win La Liguilla? Who is going to be the victor this time around? Will it be America getting back-to-back trophies? Or will it be La Máquina, Cruz Azul, winning a trophy here? Hello and welcome back to the Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso here with my boy
Soltero. What's up, guys?
On the docket today, I have CAF Champions League football final that we have to speak about. I have Bayer Leverkusen, more like Bayer never losing.
Yep,
Bundesliga talk. Marco Reus in his last game at home for Dortmund. I have the Europa League preview as well coming up between Atalanta and Bayer Leverkusen. Then I also have the Liga MX playoffs and anything else we'd like to discuss. So we got a pretty loaded episode.
God damn, man.
Where would you like to start, my friend? Where would you like to go in the whole world of football? Where should we start?
I mean, I think we could probably knock out like 2-3 things at once if we just talk about Bayer Leverkusen, right? So let's start there. They completed an undefeated season in the Bundesliga.
How do we rightfully acknowledge that, man?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because you could say it 1,000 times, and I don't think you could accurately describe what they actually achieved.
Should we say it 1,000 times?
Okay, to actually make up for it.
Bayer, what do we say? Bayer Leverkusen went undefeated.
Yeah.
Bayer Leverkusen went undefeated.
Until it really hits the noggin.
Because I just can't believe the achievement. To me, it is. I thought about this. I just think I ultimately class Leicester's incredible victory in the Premier League as one of the greatest underdog stories of all time. I don't know if it falls under the achievement category specifically. I think Bayer Leverkusen has a hold on that with what they're doing so far. I believe 2 games away now. 2 games away. 2 finals away.
2 finals.
From completing an undefeated season in all competitions. That to me is one of the greatest things I've ever heard of in all the sports.
Even in domestic league performance, so 34 straight games, I thought that this could never be done in the modern era. Truly. I thought the last time that this would happen for another 50 years would have been that Arsenal invincible season. I did not see it happen because I've seen Barcelona try, right? We've seen Manchester City do try something crazy in the Premier League. We've seen how good Madrid have been. We've seen Juventus dominate Serie A. We've seen within the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich dominate the country for a decade. And not even they could do it. And Bayern Munich were winning the leagues by February.
Yeah.
You know, they were truly dominating the league. But it was Bayer Leverkusen in 2024 who actually achieved it. And I agree. I think for me, the conclusion is this is the greatest achievement I think I've ever witnessed in domestic club football.
And I think the context matters a lot too. You mentioned it. 10 straight Bundesliga titles for Bayern Munich. Who would have saw this coming? Even when Xabi Alonso had gone on a pretty impressive run to start off with when he joined the team halfway through the season last year. I mean, we knew they'd be good, but to be this is absolutely mind-blowing. there's an argument to be made that they're the best team in world football right now across all leagues because of what they've done. And that's just remarkable to me to even consider that in a season of so many surprises, with Bayern Munich ultimately finishing off in third, by the way, with Stuttgart getting that second place finish. Shout out to them, man, getting rid of Endo and somehow finding a way to finish off in second place. Incredible, their own story, their own narrative. But beyond that, Bayer Leverkusen, what they're doing, what they've done so far, I'm at a loss of words, man. I really am, because of the context, knowing how the German league usually goes. To have a team like this just pop off, it's going to go down in history, man.
And that's the thing. It's not like the Bundesliga isn't competitive. Stuttgart, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, and RB Leipzig, they had to play them twice this season, and not one of those teams could best Bayer Leverkusen one time. Not just one time could it be done. And we saw teams get very, very close, even in the Europa League. Karabakh, for example.
Yeah.
Even Leverkusen somehow managed a way to at least equalize late in the game. That Roma one, man. They didn't even need to do it. And they still would have gone through. But they're like, you know what? Let's keep this streak alive. And that's exactly what they did. It's truly remarkable. The amount of times that they've come back at the death it just doesn't even make sense anymore. It's not registering. When Bayer Leverkusen equalized late, I'm just like, okay, this is like 2 + 2 at this point.
Yeah. What gets me is knowing how the sport usually is. Football. It's known to be a beautiful game, but it's also known to be a cruel, cruel sport because of how margins, man. Tight margins can just flip a game one way or another. We see a controversial red card be given out. We see a bad call happen. We see a player just let off on defense and allow a goal. I saw a comment on YouTube that actually perfectly represented my reaction to what Bayer Leverkusen is doing and the relationship they have with football, because seeing the sport for so long, it truly is remarkable. Here's what Kule Brero said on YouTube. This is a YouTube comment.
Okay.
He says, I've played and followed soccer for 40 years. One bad officiating call, one bad decision by a player in a key moment, one injury, one lapse of concentration, one day when things just don't go your way. It doesn't matter if you have the best coach and the best players. This sport is cruel. It is staggeringly impossible to imagine what it takes to overcome the odds and go this many games unbeaten. Congratulations, Bayer Leverkusen. And I agree, man.
That's what I'm saying.
There's just no way, man. There really is no way for me to actually capture what has happened with Bayer Leverkusen this season, because so many things can go wrong and none of them ultimately have, because they're fucking undefeated, man.
Yeah. And it's late May, bro. I just can't. I truly cannot comprehend the fact that we are in the modern era and there's a team that is undefeated and the season started in August, man. I can't truly comprehend it. I met a fan at the Austin FC game. He actually lived in Germany. He's a Cologne fan, oddly enough. This is kind of funny. But he said it'd be hilarious if Leverkusen go the entire season undefeated, but they lose against Kaiserslautern, a second division team, the only team to actually beat them. I just don't see it happening, obviously. But how we talk about cruelty.
Yeah.
How cruel would that be if that's the only game they actually lose? That'd be, first of all, very nuts, but it'd just be insane.
To top it up, both games they end up losing. So they lose out on 2 finals.
And
I mean, that's how narrow the margins are, man.
But to kind of go back to that YouTube comment, that's what makes this even more crazy, is that usually when you ask the football gods for an offering and they actually provide you with a bit of luck, somehow down the road, that luck is taken away from you, right? You get one bad call, you get a red card, you get something that goes against you because you had so many opportunities beforehand go for you. That hasn't happened yet for Leverkusen, and that's what's astonishing. If it doesn't happen, they go the entire season undefeated, man. Like, that's just crazy.
It's just crazy.
The Bundesliga run that they've done, the greatest thing I've ever seen at club level.
Yeah. Even though they ultimately don't end up topping the max points achieved in the Bundesliga, even though that hasn't happened, because I looked at the total points accumulated in the Bundesliga season. First place is Bayern Munich in 2012-2013, 91 points. Second place, Bayern Munich 2013-2014, the following year at 90 points with a goal difference of 71. And then finally in third place, Bayer Leverkusen this year, goal difference of 65, equaling the second place 90 points. Even with that, you still think it's the most impressive season in German football, or just club football overall?
No, I think so, because even in those historic seasons for Bayern Munich, they got bested at least once or twice. Bayer Leverkusen have not. There's not a single team this season that can say that they have something on Leverkusen. There's not a single team. That's a ridiculous statement to make in professional football, especially in Europe.
And how about comparing it to the only other season that is comparable, which is Arsenal's invincible season? A season in which I think they ultimately tied 12 matches in the Prem, whereas Bayer Leverkusen only ties 6, I believe. What's the difference there? Do you see this as more impressive? Do you see one league as better than the other? Which of these seasons is the most impressive to you?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you the same thing, because the way that I look at it is kind of what I said at the beginning is, for me, the fact that we're in the modern era, I think, means a lot to me. Now, again, that might be recency bias, and I'll take that criticism. But for me, it's just better, right? Because the game is faster paced. The defenses are a lot stronger. It takes a lot more to be an offensive threat. So the fact that Leverkusen have been able to manage an undefeated season in this type of climate is just more impressive to me. But I'll always hear an argument that the Arsenal team was just as good.
I think it's better. I think it's better. I look at the amount of victories, man, that Bayer Leverkusen has just outright gotten. I think it's more than Arsenal. And then the lower number in draws, I think, is also big. Arsenal had a lot of close matchups, and for that number to go into double digits regarding draws, I think that's the difference maker for me. I think Bayer Leverkusen ultimately had half as many draws as Arsenal. And so for that reason, I put it above. Regardless of the quality of the league, I do think the context as well, modern football, I prioritize.
Absolutely.
I see this as one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And for me, for sure, by far more impressive than that Arsenal season. But beyond that, they still have 2 big matches to play. 2 finals in the DFB Pokal and the Europa League final. DFB Pokal is this upcoming weekend, I believe, on the 25th against that team that you mentioned that I can't even say the name right. But respect to them for making it this far,
Respect,
bro.
though, yeah,
They're on their own narrative, and they could pull off something truly crazy, truly unbelievable. But I believe prediction-wise, there really is no way to go here beyond Bayer Leverkusen winning a trophy.
Exactly. And I want to extend this prediction and go to the Europa League now, because this might be the simplest prediction we make all year. I just don't think anybody can go against Leverkusen right now, not until they lose a game. So when we look at Leverkusen-Atalanta, I think it's a great matchup, first of all. Atalanta have done so well this season, especially in these playoff type of settings. And overall, I think they deserve to get here. They were great against Marseille. They made it to a Coppa Italia final. We can talk about that in a little bit. But can you go against Leverkusen? Can you actually say, all right, Atalanta, an above average team in Serie A who punch above their weight, can they beat an undefeated Bayer Leverkusen? The answer is no, 100 times out of 100. I just can't hear an argument that says otherwise, man.
Yeah, bro, as a football content creator, when it comes to making predictions, I just look at my list of things that I look to check off when making my predictions. Does this team have that? Does this team have this over the other? And with Bayer Leverkusen, it's the first team in our entire podcast careers where they check off every single thing, because they have not lost, bro. I cannot I don't know what else to say. I have no reason to go for Atalanta here. I'm sorry. I really am. They've been impressive within their own context and what they've achieved this season, taking down a giant in Liverpool in those quarterfinals and being the rightful team to progress through, and then defeating Marseille as well, getting a really impressive result away from home and then withholding that at home as well. Atalanta has been incredible, and normally I would have picked them to ultimately lift up this title with how they played so far, but I just think Bayer Leverkusen has been just by a wide margin, a better team this entire season because of what they've achieved. So Atalanta, I think the only thing we can really focus on is their story, what they're trying to do, what it would mean to them if they ultimately do win the title. But as for game analysis, man, I really do think this just leans towards Bayer Leverkusen fully.
Exactly. And for Atalanta, you can get really sentimental and emotional, because what Gasperini has done for Atalanta over these last 8 years has been immense. He has made them into genuine European fighters, man. I mean, what was it, like 4 or 5 years ago? They were in the Champions League knockout stages, going for semifinal appearances.
It's PSG, I think.
They were that good. And they've been able to maintain a very high level of football despite losing a lot of that team that made those Champions League runs. But Gasperini has been the mastermind behind it. He has still managed this team to Another really big match here, and in this case, a final. Here's the thing with Atalanta, though. Over these last 8 years, not a single piece of silverware to show for it.
You're right. No trophies to his name so far during his Atalanta tenure, but to me, the number that stands out so much is 8 years, man. When you said 8 years, actually took me aback a little bit, because today we were reminded of Jurgen Klopp's legacy at Liverpool, and that was a 9-year legacy that he built and that he was able to achieve so many things with. But Gasperini has been doing it for 8 years at Atalanta, a club that I would say has less resources than like a Liverpool side, for example. And so I think it's very impressive what he's been able to do at the helm for this team. The commitment, the loyalty that he has to the club, and the loyalty that the club has to him is actually a really remarkable relationship that we have right now in world football. And I also am just left really impressed with how he's managed his talent, because he's seen guys like Rasmus Højlund, for example, who was there last year, get rotated out, just completely sold him, but yet found a way to strive and succeed despite his absence. Zapata, I remember, was a big part of Atalanta and their success, losing him as well. So often they shift talent in and out, but it's Gasperini at the middle of it who's been able to just find ways to keep them in that top 6 range of Serie A, but also just competing at a really high level. This is, he's chasing his ultimate dream here, which is to get finally that big major trophy added to his name to represent all the work that he's done. So like I said, the story is beautiful, man. It really is. And if they do end up winning it, I'll be very happy for them. I just think they're up against a really tough opponent.
Exactly. And, just to keep praising Atalanta, their scouting is so good too. El Bilalture hopefully will have a really good season next year. He was injured for such a large portion of this season, but he seems to be a really good player coming from Almeria. Again, it's just such good scouting for Atalanta. As you said, they had players like Duvan Zapata, Luis Muriel way back then, yes. But they were able to find other options once those players were eventually shifted out of the club. So yes, Gasperini and his scouting team have done such a good job at keeping Atalanta so competitive. But I saw the final that they played against Juventus in the Coppa Italia, and they got ran, bro. Yeah. They got ran against a really driven team in Juventus. Juventus were great, do not get me wrong, but Charles de Ketelaere, for example, led the line for Atalanta, and he's never really proven to be clinical for me, right? Ademola Lookman's a really good winger, but I think he needs someone to service. I don't think that Ketelaere is really going to be that guy. Martin de Roon is a fantastic defensive midfielder. He has been for Atalanta this entire time, but I just think overall, as a cohesive unit, Atalanta are good, but they're not better than the best teams in Europe. They just simply are not. And that's what they're facing in Bayer Leverkusen. A complete team. Regardless of the narrative that they have going for them, Leverkusen are just better in every facet, in my opinion. So I think they'll be able to compete. Do not get me wrong, but Leverkusen is going to win the Europa League final.
History is waiting to be made in Dublin. I cannot wait to see what happens there. One last thing to note about the Bundesliga, with Bayer Leverkusen finishing in first, Stuttgart in second, Bayern Munich in third. Fourth place, we had Borussia Dortmund, who the biggest narrative for them on the final match day was the departure of Marco Reus, playing his last game at home. My brother, my friend, did you by any chance see the free kick goal he scored?
No, I did not.
Really interesting goal, bro.
Okay.
Because it almost felt, man, I don't know if this is blasphemy to say.
What are you going to say?
Felt like the keeper let him score. Completely still, froze in his place, on a shot that I thought was very, very slow on its way to goal. Obviously, there was very good technique behind it. Marco Reus got it up over the wall, but I don't know, man.
One of those.
I don't know,
but
man.
Like bad?
Online, people are like, are we just catering here to the narrative, right? Is this a Marco Reus fan? Was a goalkeeper a Marco Reus fan? Because why no effort there? Why did he just completely freeze the way he did? I feel like she could have gone for it, and he probably would have saved it if he was a top-class goalkeeper. I don't know, man. I don't want to say some foul things here, but I just thought it was really interesting that, yes, Marco Reus was able to score this wonderful goal and get an assist in this game and ultimately win the Man of the Match award in the match where they won 4-0, I believe.
Yeah.
Beautiful send-off. It was an amazing story. I love it. I'm all for it. But a part of me is like, it's like, did they ultimately let him do that just for the sake of the story? I wonder. So I definitely recommend you go check it out. The viewers as well.
Let's all
look
go
at the
check
highlights
it out.
and look at the goal and let me know in the comments down below. Do you think it was intentional from the goalkeeper's perspective to allow Marco Reus to score?
Speaking of reactions, and actually also keeping within the line of the teams we've talked about, in that Coppa Italia, did you see Allegri's reaction at the end of the game? Did you happen to see
I don't remember.
Allegri's? Oh, you would have remembered if you saw it. Yeah. Okay. Allegri's reaction on the touchline, coach of Juventus. Did you see it? All right, we could cut here. I need you to see this, bro.
Okay.
I need you to see this. It's crazy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
One of the funniest things I think I've ever seen on the touchline, bro. But honestly, if you had seen the game, his reaction made complete sense because it was one of the loudest atmospheres I've witnessed this season. And it got me kind of thinking, like, when the Italians are on it football-wise, they can surpass like anything. And I think we saw that in the last Euros. When the Italians get possessed, they can be some of the most aggressive but most talented footballers out there. And that's what this game was. Juventus, a lot of the players had not won a title yet.
Yeah.
Because this is pretty much a new team when you compare it to the Juventus that dominated in the mid-2010s. So they were so fired up to beat Atalanta. And yeah, things got really heated. And here's what's crazy. Allegri got fired because of that.
Sacked. His tenure is done with Juventus, man. Something that I see was celebrated by a lot of Juventus fans was the end of Allegri's tenure. A lot of people have been wanting him out for years, bro.
Yeah, because Juventus have been going through a weird couple of years. Let's be completely honest. Allegri hasn't really progressed the club in that regard, but the way that they played in that final against Atalanta honestly reminded of the old Allegri, the old Juventus. But there was a lot of players who actually gave Allegri a big shout out. One of them, U.S. men's National League player Tim Weah, he said, like, this is a mistake. Juventus is going to miss you, Allegri. And he said, thank you for everything you've taught me. So I think both McKennie and Timothy Weah honestly got a lot out from Allegri, which I think is really cool. So it'll be curious to see who the next coach is going to be for Juventus, and hopefully they'll see the same talent that Allegri saw in Weah and McKennie.
Yeah, I mean, Serie A-wise, Juventus, I'm interested to see how they pan out in this upcoming year because honestly, they weren't that relevant this year.
No.
It's been a couple of years now that they haven't been that relevant in the big European scene. Atalanta making a big name for themselves, and a lot of people arguing that Napoli might have had one of the worst title defenses we've ever seen in Italian football, bro. 9th place finish. Are you kidding me, man?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Really bad.
Yeah.
But it was noticeable, dude, in the first 2 weeks of the league,
Yeah, I
bro.
remember your rant on Napoli after they played Braga in the Champions League, and from then on, never delivered, bro.
Never delivered. They were so poor. They were a complete shadow of what they were last year. So disappointing. I agree. Probably the worst title defense, not just in Italy, maybe ever in the top 5 European leagues.
I'm open to it, man. 9th
Yeah.
place after what the magic they achieved last year is
dude.
really, really disappointing. The CAF Champions League has arrived. African Champions League football is here with Esperance facing off against the mighty, the powerful Al Ali. I was excited to see this matchup because honestly, we've been prioritizing Asian football most of this season, and we've in a way neglected African football, and that will be attended to in the future for sure. So I definitely just want to check in to see how we're looking club football wise in Africa. And my goodness, the atmosphere in this Esperance Stadium was magnificent. That's one thing you cannot deny about African football is that the atmospheres are top notch, and I loved seeing it. I loved experiencing it once again for a Champions League final. What I ultimately didn't love, man, was another 0-0 result, man, in a big match, leaving me wanting more. Luckily, I will get that in the second leg, but that's how the result ended. 0-0 for both sides, with both sides having their chances at goal.
They had a couple chances, I'd say a lot more for Esperance specifically, but nothing concrete. Nothing really that said, all right, there was a one-on-one opportunity or one that they should have put away. There was a header, I believe, from Jan Sase, or maybe it was Rodriguez, one of the Brazilians that play for Esperance, that probably he should have put it on target, or honestly probably passed the goalkeeper and should have scored 1-0 for Esperance. But other than that, man, other than that one header chance, Esperance had a lot of good middle third play, but really lacked in creating clear-cut opportunities in the final third. But overall, I thought they were incredibly active. They did very well in nullifying Al Ali because Al Ali were, I think, relegated to maybe one good chance. That's about it. And even then, Al Ali didn't have that much going for them in the final third. I thought Esperance really used that home advantage, and they had a great game. but they should have gotten something out of it.
Won by one, man.
They should have.
They should have.
For what they gave in this match, and for again the amount of opportunities that they were able to get in that middle third, they should have crafted a goal. They should have scored, especially now knowing that the second leg is going to be back in Egypt.
That's the biggest thing, man. It's just like facing off against Real Madrid. It's just like, I mean, any situation where you're the underdog, Esperance is a clear underdog here because of the history at hand. Exactly. I thought they were magnificent in the first half, specifically. They were going at Al-Ahly. They were unafraid. It just felt like they kind of got tired in the second half, and they gave Al-Ahly more possession. But like you said, Al-Ahly didn't do much. That's the good part. They didn't do much. They weren't able to break down their defense. I just don't know if over 90 minutes in Egypt that they can perform like that once again and even go so far as getting a goal and getting a lead in a very hostile environment. It's going to be really tough to pull off. If they do, it'll be one of the greatest Champions League results in Africa because of just the context behind it, knowing how historic this Al-Ahly side is.
You say that it's like a Real Madrid. You could go a step further and say it is exactly like playing Real Madrid. Bro, this is Al-Ahly's 5th CAF Champions League final in a row.
How many did you say, bro?
5th. The last 5 years have all had Al-Ahly in the final.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And their last 4 finals, right? They only lost one of them.
So Real Madrid is like, you
could actually say that, bro, because I mean, beyond the 5 appearances, they also won a couple more over the last decade. So they're on an incredible run of dominance in Africa. And if they win this will be 4 out of 5.
Do you know when was the last time Esperance won it, if ever?
Yes, Esperance have been to, honestly, one of the more recent finals. I'd say within the last 6 years. I can't remember if they won it, but there have been really good. Actually, you know what? No, they did, because one of the Algerians, Belali, he was a part of that team, and they actually did win it when he was there. I don't know if they beat Al-Ahly in the final, but Esperance have somewhat recently lifted the trophy.
Good. Okay, that's good news. That really is. But going into the second leg, then, knowing what you know, where are you going with your prediction?
That's what sucks here. Esperance played so well, I thought, in this first leg, but as you just put earlier, the history that they have to go against, considering Al-Ahly's form and run in this Champions League, and it's in Egypt, that's a lot to ask. Esperance might be the better team, honestly, but on the road in Egypt when it's 0-0, I think is going to be really difficult. Although I looked at the rules, I'm pretty sure away goals apply in Africa.
Oh.
So if anything, it's actually in their favor mathematically.
Whoa.
But despite that, I'm still going to go Al-Ahly.
It's tough not to, man. I got to go with my brother, Mohamed Salah. Egypt, the relationship. I look a little Egyptian, I think. I think I'm going to go all in on Al-Ahly, given the history, the context, everything that there is to know about them. And I just do think that they're up the level of play. I think they'll play better overall as a team in the second leg, comfortably at home. It'll get interesting, though. If they can see that away goal early on, man, I wonder how they're going to respond, because I was surprised, honestly, by some of the players that were benched in that first leg that normally I was accustomed to seeing, like Aliou Deng didn't start in the match. Their historic goalkeeper, El Shanawi, wasn't playing as well. They replaced him with a 24-year-old. That makes sense. And then there was a couple more names I saw on the bench. I was like, interesting. This is a little bit of a transition period for Al-Ahly.
It is, yeah. Their striker, too, Abu Ali, I think he's new. I haven't really seen him in years prior, so I guess there's a couple of positions, like you said, they're in rotation.
But regardless, they're going to figure it out. I got them figuring it out. I'm going to go Al-Ahly 2, Esperance 0. I think they're going to shut them out.
Sticking to the realm of finals, I'm going to get really quirky here. We're going to go to some weird places, so viewers and you too, Reyno, so just stick with me. All right, I'm going to try and keep it nice and clean, nice and quick as well. Australia A-League, all right? Central Coast Mariners. Last year, they finished in second place, go to the playoffs, win the final, all right? This year, they finish in first place. They win the premiership is what that's called. So that's 2 titles in a row. And now they're currently set to play in the final of the playoffs as well. So they are on a really good run of form. But not only that, they just played in the AFC Cup final, which is basically the Europa League of Asia.
Okay.
All right. And they played against a Lebanese side, Al-Ahid. Anyone ever seen a Lebanese football club? The answer should be no. I hope it's no. But I watched it. Right,
Okay.
first time I've seen Lebanese football. There's actually a couple of familiar faces from the Lebanese national team that played in the AFC
Ali
Asian
Madan?
Cup, by the way. No, it was Haidar. Haidar was one, Melki was another, and El Zain, the center back. But overall, Central Coast Mariners ended up dominating this match. They only won 1-0, but the first half, Al Ahid did pretty well, and I was actually surprised with their level. But second half, the Australians took over. 3 players I really want to highlight. Left back, Farrell. They have a central attacking midfielder who's pretty good, Nesbitt, and a really good defensive midfielder named Ballard. And they're all like 22, 23 years of age. So I think it's really interesting to note from an Australian national team perspective, Nesbitt just got his first call-up, I think, a couple months ago. So the Central Coast Mariners team, very young, but also very good and getting results and putting in the performances because they're getting silverware along with these performances. So I just want to give a big shout out to A-League Central Coast Mariners who are putting in the work over these last 2 years.
Wait, so they won?
They won 1-0.
So then do they get Champions League qualification?
They do. So they will be in the
Nice.
Champions
So we'll
League
see them
next year. Yeah, we will
Bet.
see them next year. But they're a really young team. Honestly, I looked at the average age, and if you take out like the 2 oldest players, the average age is like 23 or 24. So they're super young, but they're winning titles, which is really, really cool. All right, so now let's go all the way over to England, but not the Premier League, not the Championship. We're going to League One. All right. The EFL playoffs are upon us. We're in Wembley, which is actually really cool. These games end up being like history lessons, bro. The first match that I saw was on Saturday. It was Oxford United against Bolton Wanderers. Here's a fun fact about Oxford, bro. So they have a long history in English football. The highest that they've ever gotten is the top division, but that was back in the 80s for like 3 years. During that time, they actually won the League Cup.
The League Cup. Okay,
So it's the Carabao
like
Cup.
The Carabao.
The
okay.
Carabao Cup. So that's what it is now and what it was back then. They won that when they were in the first division. That's basically the biggest piece of silver they have to their club's name. In 2006, they got relegated from the 4th to the 5th division. And they were, at that point, the first team to get relegated out of the top 4 divisions that had won a big piece of silverware.
Oh, wow. So in a way, probably one of the most disappointing clubs in English football history.
In a way.
Because that should not happen, my friend.
It shouldn't happen.
Jesus
So
Christ.
a massive decline from 1985 to 2006. Massive.
Yeah.
They climb their way back into the 4th division. Then they get into the 3rd division.
Beautiful.
And they find themselves in a playoff against Bolton Wanderers now.
In 2024.
In 2024.
So like 15 years happened throughout that time.
Throughout that time.
Okay.
And Bolton Wanderers were last in the Premier League in 2012, by the way.
Yeah, with well, not that time, but I remember they had Borghetti, the Mexican, Javier Borghetti, play for Bolton. Whenever they were in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I don't know when that was, but mid 2000s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they had a decent run in the mid 2000s, lasting up until 2012, and then now they're in the 3rd division. And I think Bolton have even gone to the 4th. Maybe I might be wrong on that. Actually, maybe take that out. But Oxford Bolton League One 3rd division playoff final winner goes to the Championship Division 2, and the game starts off honestly pretty even, but basically I would say from the 30-minute onward, Oxford took over, bro. Maybe they conjured up some 1980s magic because there was a beautiful goal that Portuguese player Ruben Rodriguez picks out from the sky. First touch, immaculate. Second touch, opens up the space for himself. And the third touch, one of the finest through balls I've seen at the lower division level. And he finds Josh Murphy, who, by the way, is the twin brother of Newcastle United's winger, Jacob Murphy.
Oh, no way.
And he puts it away. And at that point, I believe it made it 2-0 because Josh Murphy scored the first goal.
Gotcha.
So at this point, Oxford United 2-0, and they just saw out the rest of the game, bro. They could have gotten a third. Murphy almost got a hat trick.
Damn.
It was crazy. They played so well. Brannigan was a bulldozer in midfield. Oxford United definitely looked the better team, and they looked like they were championship material. So congratulations to Oxford United, who are trying to get back to the Premier League since the 1980s, like mid-80s.
So that automatically qualifies them into the championship.
Yeah,
That wasn't a playoff game. That was like the final.
It was the playoff. It was the playoff game. It was the final of the playoffs.
Final of the playoffs.
Yeah,
Bet.
exactly.
Okay, so they finished the season in 3rd?
They
Is that how it works over there? Or?
Here's what's crazy about this. Oxford United got into a playoff position on the last match day.
Wow.
They then won their semifinals. I forget against who, but then they beat Bolton, who were the third place team.
Yes.
So Bolton low-key choked it.
Wow. So Oxford is through the championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to look at the teams that got relegated from the championship.
I don't know,
I need to see
honestly.
the replacement because I think I remember seeing that there's some pretty notable names there, man.
Let's look at it. Yeah, honestly, I don't know.
The 3 teams getting relegated are Birmingham City, Jude Bellingham's very own Birmingham City, Huddersfield Town.
They were in the Prem really recently.
They had Aaron Moy, the Australian, and then Rotherham United.
I don't know much
going out in last place. So that's how it ends for them, and Oxford will be taking their place.
Oxford will be taking their place. And I think it's fully deserved. They look great today.
Oh, congratulations to them. What a massive
congratulations.
result. And, for Bolton, it's another year to look forward to hopefully flip the result.
Bro, losing the final like that must suck.
It's harsh, bro. England is harsh about that, man.
Harsh about it, bro. You get so close. And Bolton, I think they were 10 points above Oxford in the table, and they ended up losing to them in a one-off game. They were the worst team, though. That's the thing. So it was deserved for Oxford to go through, but my God, man.
Yes, sir.
Like, come on. Let's go down a division. League 2, 4th Division English football. The final was the day after in Wembley. Crawley Town against Crewe Alexandra. Now, the only history I have here is that I remember Crawley Town because, like, back in 2010, they were in the 5th division, so non-league football, and they made a massive run in the FA Cup, and they played Manchester United. Like Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United, and they only lost 1-0.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's
like,
amazing.
actually amazing. That's the only reason why I know Crawley Town. They've never played in the 1st division. Never. I think the highest they ever got to was the 2nd division. But they are now in the playoff of League 2. They've been in League 1 before, actually, so they're trying to get back to it. They have to play Crewe Alexandra. And one thing that I did note in the League 1 playoff was the level of play is actually really good for 3rd division, in that League 1 game. And same thing, I can say the same thing here, bro. League 2 football, not bad for 4th division, man. Seriously. I was very, very impressed, more so with Crawley Town. Crewe Alexandra definitely looked like they're a 4th division side. They ended up losing this final to Crawley Town, but Crawley Town looked to be a very good side, and they looked like League 1 material. They easily won this game. Some really good goals here. Kelly, the English Irishman, getting some really good assists. Orsi, I believe is his name. He's an English Italian, getting the goals as well. So Crawley Town looked very, very good. Congratulations to them because they do look like a League 1 side. But bro, like you look at some of these players and they have such interesting paths to where they've gotten to now. Like for example, Orsi, the player, he played college here in the United States.
Where at?
Like that was his path.
Damn.
I don't know exactly where, but he played like 2 years in college. There's 2 other players who played with Crawley Town who were playing in League 1 who their path was somehow college soccer and then going back to England. Pretty crazy. Like that is ultimately the level of play though. Like let's not get carried away here. But yeah, I just want to give a congratulations to Crawley Town because they look great today.
So they're through to the
3rd division.
3rd division.
They're through to the 3rd division. What's interesting though is I just realized that Crawley Town were the opponents of Wrexham because Wrexham were in League 2 this year.
Right.
And I was actually really impressed with Crawley Town. So Wrexham automatically qualified. So that means Wrexham played decent football.
Oh, yeah. They're on their way to stardom, man.
Right,
they
right.
are working their way up.
And now I'm wondering how quickly can Wrexham get to the 2nd division? And what will it take? Are they going to have to get rid of half of their squad now, get the other half to be very solid League 1 players to get them into the 2nd division? I wonder what it's going to take, or is the team that they have now suited to at least maybe get into that 6th, 5th place spot in the championship? In League 1. I wonder though, I wonder if there's going to be a big gap between League 1 and championship as far as Wrexham's journey.
I just wonder for them when they're going to slow it down, man, because right now they're qualifying automatically. At some point, they have to face some level of adversity that forces them to stay in the same league for another year. I wonder if it'll happen in this league or if it won't happen until like they're in the championship.
That'd be crazy.
Then they finally get into that routine of maybe finishing in 8th or 9th, and they just got to keep working at it until finally they make the Prem. I wonder when that's truly going to happen and if it's going to be this year. Liga MX playoffs are in full effect. La Liguilla, we saw America face off against Chivas in the semifinals, and we just finished watching Cruz Azul going up against Monterrey. Let me start with Chivas versus America, a game in which going into it was 0-0 after a result that I thought Chivas should have ended with a goal lead, given how they performed at the Estadio Akron. I already expressed my thoughts on that, but that is how I ultimately felt, was that feeling of like, damn, we should have left with a lot more, but we didn't, man. And ultimately, it was that lack of finishing that came back to bite us, man, because in this second leg at the Estadio Azteca, America just got really organized. They got really organized, and it was incredibly tough for this Chivas offense to break them down. Yeah. And ultimately, they were beating us in the air a lot, and it was through a set piece where Israel Reyes got the game-winning goal to push America ahead. Once they got that goal, we needed 2.5 goals to get the result, and ultimately, that just wasn't going to happen with the way that we were playing. They shut us down. And credit to America because they got the job done. They did what was required out of them. And I know that a lot of people, including myself, are kind of critical of how America has approached this Liguilla playoff so far. Yeah. Not looking as dominant or as convincing as they were last year. This time around, they're looking a little bit more calculated, I guess, is how I ultimately would interpret it. Because despite all the criticisms, bro, they're here once again in a Liga MX final in back-to-back years, chasing the bicampeonato, which is just so rare to see. Yeah. We most recently saw it with Atlas. Leon did it one time, and I believe that's it, man. There's not many teams that are able to say they did that achievement. So America is a nominee for potentially putting off something incredible in this league, and they did it by beating their huge rivals in Chivas. And god damn it, does it hurt, bro, to lose to them. I've been having a really, really bad weekend, my friend. Really bad. But once again, I always respect and admire greatness. And I think America is in the midst of that right now because they got a good team, bro.
Oh, yeah. But I think you shouldn't feel too hard done for Chivas' performance against America in the second leg. I thought America were going to dominate way more, but honestly, the first half, Chivas made it a scrap. They made it as tight as they possibly could have. And if anything, Chivas actually had some really good possession. What they ultimately couldn't do was just translate that to genuine final third options, man. Marin, Alvarado, Keikao when he came on, though they had a lot of energy and activity, they just couldn't really get past the America players one-on-one, or they just couldn't combine with each other to create a clear chance. That's the only thing I really have to criticize about Chivas is they played great, I'd say, in the midfield and even defensively, man. Honestly, if they just had 1 or 2 players who were just very aggressive offensively or who were a lot better in one-on-one situations, honestly, I think Chivas could have gotten a really massive result on the road. Because, as you already kind of alluded to, America, although they did put in a professional performance, I don't think I could say it was convincing. I'll be completely honest. America shorted up in the second half. Don't get me wrong. They definitely nullified Chivas in the second half. They had a lot more of the ball. That's when they eventually got the goal. But other than that, America, and I've said it this whole playoffs, they just don't look the same. They don't look like they have the same bite that they had in the regular season. And ultimately, I think the best way I can describe it, they look a half step slow to everything. They don't have the same dynamicism that they had in the regular season. And honestly, I think that's actually a major point of contention for America because that's why they were so good. It was their quickness, their aggressiveness on and off the ball. They've lost a bit of that in this playoffs. So yes, Chivas did lose, but I think if Chivas just had more attacking options, they could have beaten America.
I feel like had we made it tighter, had we gotten that equalizing goal, I feel like America can get into that gear if needed. I feel like they're almost coasting by because they realize that they do have that ability. They're that good. They're that experienced now. I feel like although they do deserve to be criticized the way you have, they still have done enough to get through. And it's been a sort of lazy approach so far. I'm hesitant to go as far as to say that they've dropped in quality. I wonder if it's only been 3 playoff games so far, or four playoff games so far. I wonder if come final time, we just see the same old version. I think that's still there in them is ultimately what I'm saying.
It again, and we prefaced it when we talked about what could happen in the second leg. At the very end of the day, America still possessed their individual quality, right? Players like Henry Martin, Julian Quiñones, Endejas, in the midfield Fidalgo, Richard Sanchez off the bench. There's immense quality individually. I just think as a collective, America are not performing the way that I think most people thought that they would. And I guess I'll get to a